Chapter 727. At this moment, Yi Kun had no idea that Yi Qinghan had already arrived at the one-line sky ahead of him. He thought that he could hide his actions for at least 2 days. By the time Yi Qinghan found out, he would have already infiltrated the planar battlefield. Who would care about him in the planar battlefield? As long as he could become a superior god, he would not have to worry about Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Kun proudly walked towards the one-line sky. He thought to himself, this dark night demonic Tao scripture is indeed powerful. It can even devour the enemy's quintessence. As long as I reach the planar battlefield, I will become a superior god in less than 3 years. Yi Qinghan, I will make you regret looking down on me. Insane sect, you will pay the price for looking down on me. At this moment, Yi Kun's cultivation had actually improved a little. His dark quintessence had become even darker. Devouring the energy of others for his own use allowed his cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds. However, at this moment, he actually walked right into the trap and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. At the one-line sky, the divine bird hopped around and looked at the long and narrow valley. It could see the end of the valley at a glance. It reminded Yi Kun, Master, if he discovered you in advance, why would he walk right into the trap? Yi Qinghan frowned. His soul was already very strong. Coupled with the soul suppression orb's effect, it was unlikely that Yi Kun would discover him in advance without him noticing. That bastard obviously obtained the inheritance. God knows how powerful the Chaos Era's main god is. If he escapes today, it will be difficult to catch him again. The divine bird reminded. He won't be able to escape. Yi Qinghan said coldly as he drew his sword. In order to be absolutely safe, let's place the star-entangling vine on the rock above the entrance. When Yi Kun enters the canyon, the star-entangling vine will be responsible for blocking the entrance. The Pishio will also stay at the entrance. The two of them will block the entrance, and we will be at the exit. I don't believe that he can do that. The divine bird laughed. Yi Qinghan looked up at the top of the sky. The sky was blue and there was no place for the star-entwining vine to hide. Yi Qinghan would definitely investigate everything about Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was well aware of the few mythical beasts and spiritual plants in Yi Qinghan's body. Once the star-entwining vine was discovered, Yi Qinghan would be on high alert. If there's no other way, we can just dig a hole and let him jump in himself. Then, we can just bury him, right? There's no need to go through so much trouble. The divine bird scanned its surroundings and pondered for a moment before it came up with a plan. Yi Qinghan frowned. Yi Kun was not a fool. There wasn't any place around here that could be set up, right? Let's place the Pishio and the star-entwining vine at the exit. You can disguise yourself as an adventurer at the side of the entrance and take a few divine elixirs as treasures. This guy will definitely take the initiative to snatch them. Let's play a game of fishing. If he passes by, he will definitely be tricked. You can throw him into the passage and he will have nowhere to go. Won't he be at our disposal? The divine bird weighed the divine elixirs in its claws and said wretchedly. When Yi Qinghan heard it, it made sense. Yi Kun wanted to snatch the good stuff from others. He was a playboy by nature. Instead of looking for him, it was better for him to look for Yi Qinghan. In order to prevent Yi Kun from taking other routes, Yi Qinghan deliberately exaggerated it. A divine weapon rainbow pierced through heaven and earth, as if a treasure had been born. Then it disappeared, and he changed his appearance to that of an old tomb raider. He placed the star-entwining vine and the Pishio at the exit of the one-line sky while he began to build a stone door less than a mile away from the entrance. There were a few simple inscriptions carved on it, masquerading as a treasure vault. Yi Kun had originally passed by a small city and wanted to massacre the people there to cultivate. However, he was attracted by the sudden explosion of the rainbow and the rich divinity, so he rushed over impatiently. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had attracted more than 10 adventurers. There were men and women, old and young. They surrounded the cave and discussed spiritedly. This is a divine treasure vault. You actually found such a good treasure. There's also a stone door here. The things inside must be even more precious. An old man looked at the old man in front of him excitedly, but he did not know that this old man was the divine lord of the insane mansion. Old man, this divine weapon was found in the one-line sky. It belongs to the one-line sky. Give it to me. Boom. Several silhouettes rushed over from afar and struck out with palm prints, knocking away the few people around Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan didn't resist and was sent flying as well. His divine artifact flew out of his hand and was taken away by the few people in the distance. It's the bandits of the one-line sky. Run! The dozen or so adventurers who had gathered around were immediately frightened, their faces ashen, and they all madly ran away. Yi Qinghan's old body crashed into the stone door and coughed up blood non-stop. He looked at the newcomers with an angry face. There were more than 10 men in green robes with the words, "Cloud Flipping," embroidered on their shoulders. They had a strong aura. There were 10 lower extreme god priests and 3 middle god priests. All of them had fierce faces and were wild and domineering. Dog, look one more time and I'll gouge your eyes out. This is the territory of the cloud-flipping stronghold in the one-line sky. How can we let you dig for treasures as you wish? The bandits scolded coldly. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He did not expect a group of bandits to cooperate with him. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, with this group of bandits, Yi Qinghan's interest was piqued. He pretended to be a helpless old man and glared at them. You can't do this. This is the treasure I found. Yi Qinghan glared and said. Ha ha ha, this old man must be tired of living. He actually said that this is the treasure he found. This is the one-line sky. Everything here belongs to the cloud-flipping stronghold. Old man, open the stone door for me and I'll spare your life. Pa! The leader was the cloud-flipping stronghold's 6th master. His cultivation was not bad and was close to the prefecture master level. He raised the long whip in his hand and threw it at Yi Qinghan with great power. Yi Qinghan pretended to be afraid and curled up. This made the bandits of the cloud-flipping stronghold laugh out loud. Humph! Do the treasures in the one-line sky belong to the cloud-flipping stronghold? I said that all the treasures in the world belong to me, Yi Kun. A cold snort could freeze people's hearts. More than 10 bandits' auras froze, and a few of them fell from the sky. They turned around in fear and saw a handsome young man with an incomparably evil charm. His eyes were suffused with a red light, causing people to be terrified. You're courting death. The 6th manager mustered up his courage and cursed loudly. He wanted to use his identity to threaten Yi Kun, but before he could finish his sentence, Yi Kun pierced through his chest. He lost all signs of life and his chi and blood were devoured. Boom! The 6th master fell to the ground. His eyes were wide open as if he was greatly frightened. Yi Kun smiled evilly and reached out to snatch the divine weapon. It was actually an extreme medium divine weapon, almost surpassing the level of a superior divine weapon. Yi Kun nodded in satisfaction. With a wave of his hand, he killed the remaining 12 bandits. He narrowed his eyes at the old man in front of him and said coldly, "Grave robber, open the stone door and I will grant you an intact corpse." Chapter 728. Yi Kun smiled evilly. He didn't expect to find a divine treasure right before he left the broken martial divine kingdom. Luck was indeed unstoppable. The face of the elder in front of him gradually changed, causing Yi Kun to be stunned. He took a step back and his expression changed. "It's you!" Yi Kun cried out. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. His gaze was like fire, burning Yi Kun's soul. "Brother, why are you here?" Yi Kun calmed himself down and asked hoarsely. If I didn't come, would you have turned the world upside down? You have no grudges, yet you dared to slaughter a sect and exterminate a human race. Is there anything you won't do? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. They provoked me first, that's why I attacked. Yi Kun quibbled. Yi Qinghan shook his head. There was no way to save such a person. He stretched out his hand and said, give me the godhead and destroy the memory inheritance. I'll let you cultivate to become a god again. What godhead? Didn't you steal my yin-yang ring? Yi Kun pretended to be angry and asked. Yi Qinghan was furious. Yi Kun really wouldn't give up until all hope was gone. He clenched his fists and pressed forward. Yi Kun kept retreating. No matter how strong his cultivation had become, he was still afraid of his brother. Yi Kun gradually retreated into the Line Canyon and kept moving backward. He didn't want to fight to the death. Yi Qinghan blocked the entrance and sneered. He gestured for Yi Kun to look behind him. Yi Kun turned around and found that the exit was blocked by the star-twining vine. There were thousands of vines and a Pai Shio was squatting on a rock. It was filled with evil energy and opened its fangs to kill. The secret technique you use to slaughter the Xianhua sect isn't something that can be found in the Middle Realm. You must have obtained the inheritance from somewhere else. Moreover, it's the inheritance of the great demon god. Do you know anything about the great demon god? You actually dared to cooperate with them. You really don't know what's good for you. Yi Qinghan said coldly. When Yi Kun saw that Yi Qinghan knew his background, he finally tore off his disguise. He grinned cruelly and said, Yi Qinghan, don't pretend. If I don't cultivate the Dark Knight Demon God Tao scripture, why don't you give me resources and secret techniques? But did you give it to her? I only went to the treasury to take some divinity, 2 divine weapons, and some divine crystals. You cut off one of my arms in front of everyone. Now that I'm cultivating the Devil Clan's secret technique, you're here to stop me. Are you afraid that I'll surpass you? Yi Qinghan's breathing stagnated. It seemed like his guess was correct. With a violent shake, the sound of a blade pierced through the air, reverberating back and forth within the crack in the sky, deafening to the point of collapse. Boom! Yi Kun's god power roared, and the dark night elements filled the air. The crack in the sky instantly turned dark. He raised his sinister eyes slightly and grinned. He stabbed the divine weapon into the cliff and said provocatively, Yi Qinghan, don't think that you're so great. You act like you're the savior of the world. That's just your selfish thinking. I don't care. I also don't think that you're invincible among your peers. I know that you have many divine weapons. If you have the guts, let's fight bare-handed. I'll use the close combat techniques you taught me. Let's see if I can surpass you. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and stabbed Violent Strike into the ground. He kicked it with one leg and it flew dozens of meters forward. He stood at the entrance and removed the god-severing gloves. He looked coldly at Yi Kun. Close combat. This was the fighting style that the 2 brothers liked when they were young. The 2 of them had sparred since they were young. However, as time passed, Yi Kun kept losing. He even lost his Tao heart. He gave up on himself and gave up on cultivation. He began to enjoy life and became a hedonistic playboy. As you wish. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Crack. Yi Kun shook his muscles and bones. His bones kept making crisp sounds. He kicked his leg and kicked the divine sword more than 30 meters away. He got into a fighting stance and was full of vigor. After being forged by the Dark Knight Demon Godhead, Yi Kun's physical body had become much stronger. It was even not inferior to the 5 elements Tao body. In addition, the demon race had many close combat secret techniques. In the chaotic era, the wizard race mainly cultivated divine arts. They could not win against the demon race in close combat. Only the 10 great battle physiques were the strongest. Although the Dark Knight Demon Godhead's divine body was not ranked in the top 10, he was the strongest after the 10 great battle physiques. He was the right-hand man of the great demon god. Yi Kun smiled evilly. He was confident that he could suppress Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Dao body. Is that enough? The strong wind blew and blew Yi Qinghan's hair. His face was filled with determination. This time, he could not let Yi Kun escape. At the very least, he had to leave the Dark Knight Demon Godhead behind. Come. I will let you know that you are nothing more than this. Yi Kun roared. The one-line sky passage was only about 5 meters wide. If one wanted to fight here, one would need to be very strong in close combat. If one was not careful, one would be severely injured. Yi Qinghan pressed forward and closed in on Yi Kun. Whoosh! Yi Kun rushed back as fast as lightning. He lifted his leg and kicked Yi Qinghan's jaw. It was sharper than a divine weapon and could break a mountain. If it hit a person's head, it would be enough to shatter it. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches. He could clearly see Yi Kun's traces. His right leg moved back slightly and his body leaned back slightly. He raised his right hand and raised his left hand, forming a Tai Chi pattern. Yi Kun's kick missed, but Yi Qinghan's right hand grabbed his ankle. Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity and raised his left hand to control Yi Kun's right leg. He spun his body and smashed Yi Kun's body to the side of the cliff. Boom! Yi Kun's body hit the cliff like a cannonball. The cliff was as hard as iron, but his body smashed a huge hole in it. Yi Kun spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His body quickly bounced back and pulled away from Yi Qinghan. His face was full of anger. In the world of martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. Your heart is not fast enough, which limits your body. Therefore, the Godhead can be used differently in different people's hands. You're not suitable for cultivation, so why don't you want to be a peaceful prince? Yi Qinghan said coldly. Don't always act so high and mighty. I'm not suitable for cultivation. Today, I'll let you understand what true speed is and what true close-range combat is. Yi Kun was furious. His mentality had been twisted by continuous losses. He only wanted to defeat Yi Qinghan. Dark Knight, you're everywhere. With your support, heaven, earth, and time cannot restrain me. Yi Kun's 10 fingers reached into the sky. His hands were constantly forming seals. The sky suddenly darkened. Suddenly, Yi Kun's body bounced up and crushed the ground with his foot. His right knee was aimed at Yi Qinghan's chest. His right hand turned into a sharp claw and tore through the void. He appeared directly in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He didn't have time to catch Yi Kun's trace. He only had time to raise his left arm to block his chest and grab Yi Kun's sharp claw with his right hand. Blade of the Dark Knight, break. Yi Kun's body was as sharp as a blade. He used his knee to block Yi Qinghan's left arm. His right claw flashed like lightning and avoided Yi Qinghan's right hand, aiming for Yi Qinghan's head. Boom! Thud, thud, thud. Yi Qinghan was sent flying by the knee strike and landed on the ground with great difficulty. Every step he took left a deep imprint on the ground, causing rocks to crumble and stone fragments to fly in all directions. They were sharper than divine weapons as they shot into the stone body. Chapter 729. Bam bam bam. Yi Qinghan retreated until he was less than a meter away from the entrance. The tip of his foot crushed a rock before he managed to stop himself. He flipped his hand and grabbed Yi Kun's right hand. With a vicious twist, he almost broke Yi Kun's arm. Inch strike. Yi Qinghan let out a low roar and pulled his hand back, pushing Yi Kun's arm towards his chest. The 1-inch strike erupted, and a force of several tens of thousands of jin passed through his arm and into Yi Kun's body. Boom! Yi Kun's right arm was almost broken. He had no choice but to give up his hard-won advantage and cushion Yi Qinghan's power. Bam bam bam. Yi Kun was sent flying backwards, but Yi Qinghan rushed up and kicked Yi Kun in the chest. Yi Kun could no longer control his body and was sent flying backwards in a straight line within the line canyon. Like a sword, he flew back dozens of meters and flipped a few times before standing up. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was even faster. He was already in the air and his knees were about to hit Yi Kun's chest. Yi Kun roared and activated his devil body. He elbowed Yi Qinghan's knees and wanted to use his devil body to break through Yi Qinghan's legs. Boom! His elbows hit Yi Kun's knees. His divine power surged and he crashed into the two sides of the cliff. Bam bam bam. Stone fragments fell from the sky and blinded their eyes. Yi Qinghan's right elbow hit Yi Kun's neck just as his divine body was about to fly backward. Yi Kun was shocked. Yi Qinghan's elbow was like a knife. If he was hit like that, his head would be broken. So, he jerked his head back. Yi Qinghan's elbow brushed past his face less than half a finger away. The blade cheek cut his skin. Bam bam bam. The two separated. Yi Kun was forced to the center of the line cliff. Yi Kun felt a burning pain on his face. His hair was disheveled and he looked like a crazy demon. However, Yi Qinghan was still as handsome as jade. He was not injured at all. It was obvious who was stronger. Yi Qinghan's close combat skills were honed through countless battles. How could Yi Kun learn them through his inherited memories? In terms of combat skills, Yi Qinghan was 10,000 times better than Yi. Give me the Godhead and I won't kill you. Yi Kun's hand. You're dreaming. With it, you won't be able to win so easily even if you want to. The thrill of that strike just now is something I can't forget. I'll enjoy the pleasure of defeating you. No one will be able to take away the Dark Knight Demon Godhead. Yi Qinghan's killing intent seeped out. He no longer held back and sternly said, "The Yi clan doesn't have an unfilial descendant like you. On behalf of the Yi clan, I will expel you. From now on, our grudges are severed. Don't call me brother anymore. I don't have a brother like you. If you don't hand over the Godhead, I'll blow your head off. Then come. You will eventually become my stepping stone." Yi Kun's demonic energy flowed. The more he fought, the stronger he became. His demonic energy began to refine his body. Dark elements filled his limbs. At this moment, the surrounding dark elements disappeared. The sky was blue. All the dark elements had been devoured by Yi Kun. Boom! Yi Qinghan punched out. The five elements dragon roared and blasted at Yi Kun. Yi Kun's Dark Knight Demonic Divine Tao scripture was full of demonic secret techniques, and he was actually able to fight evenly with Yi Qinghan for a short period of time. Even the one-line sky was trembling as the two brothers fought fiercely. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, demonic blood splattered everywhere, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Yi Qinghan was still strong in the end. He gradually suppressed Yi Kun's momentum. At first, Yi Kun became more and more excited as the fight went on. Finally, he was able to fight Yi Qinghan to a standstill. But towards the end, he began to get anxious. The more he fought, the more anxious he became. He wanted to suppress Yi Qinghan, but Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity. Fast as lightning, strong as mountains. The two were the epitome of speed and strength. One punch could penetrate a mountain. One kick could break a protruding stone. Yi Qinghan was no longer relaxed. Yi Kun's Dark Knight Demonic Divine Tao body's recovery speed was even faster than his five elements Tao body. He couldn't kill him. Finally, he was wounded. His fist was dripping with blood. Ha 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 ha, Yi Kun laughed wildly. His laughter was earth-shattering. The line cliff shook for a long time. Is it very funny? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Of course. I've lost my whole life. I've never experienced the feeling of winning. I didn't expect to experience it now. Why aren't you laughing? Yi Kun asked disdainfully. Did you win? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He could suppress Yi Kun without weapons. But it would be difficult to kill him or take out his divinity. At least you didn't win. Believe me, I will win soon. Yi Kun said coldly. I'll fulfill your wish. If you can beat me in close combat, I'll let you go. Yi Qinghan's voice was cold. He opened his slender fingers and his whole body turned into a blade. He stood in the line cliff like a heavenly blade. His blade energy rushed into the sky and shook the heavens. The great Tao rumbled and attracted a large number of experts. The martial breaker Old Ancestor and the Divine Lord came and blocked the entrance of the line cliff. They couldn't help but gasp when they saw Yi Qinghan's powerful aura. This battle intent alone was enough to show that Yi Qinghan was not inferior to a superior god priest. However, Yi Kun actually blocked this battle intent and aura. He didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. His aura rose and he turned into a dark demonic god. He looked down on everyone and said hoarsely, "Ant, I'm no longer the useless playboy in your eyes. The heavens have given me glory. I'll dare to be more arrogant than the heavens. What bullshit great demonic god? What bullshit chaotic 10 great physiques? So what if the primal chaos sorcerer god is here? I'm the strongest. You'll all be my stepping stones." Yi Kun soared into the sky like he was number one. He waved his hand and covered the line cliff. He suppressed Yi Qinghan. Man and blade as one. Blade Dao has reached large success. Even the sky is a blade. Open. Yi Qinghan turned berserk and split open the heavens and the earth. The sliver of heaven began to shake and was about to collapse. Whoosh! Boom! The Dark Knight demonic god's palm carried a terrifying devouring power and collided with Yi Qinghan's berserk. The berserk was indestructible and directly pierced through the giant palm. It was unstoppable and charged towards Yi Kun's body. Yi Kun was horrified. Before he could escape, a knife had pierced through his chest. Fast. It was too fast. It was so fast that even the Old Ancestor felt that he couldn't dodge it. Boom! Yi Kun fell to his knees and looked down at his chest. His face was filled with disbelief. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to kill him with just a single blade. This is impossible. Yi Kun's face was filled with disbelief. His internal organs were almost crushed to pieces. If it wasn't for the Dark Knight element protecting him, his body would have been destroyed. Yi Qinghan didn't expect that this blade couldn't kill Yi Kun. The Dark Knight demonic godhead was indeed terrifying. It could actually protect its master. Boom! Yi Qinghan lifted his leg and kicked Yi Kun's head without mercy. He wanted to break Yi Kun's head and force out the godhead. This kick was as fast as a blade. It was even sharper than a blade. If the kick hit, Yi Kun would definitely die. Yi Kun knew that Yi Qinghan wanted to kill him. He didn't beg for mercy. He blocked with his right arm and pressed his left hand on his right arm, hoping to block this kick. Crack! Yi Kun's right arm was broken by this kick. Yi Qinghan's foot landed on Yi Kun's head with ease. Boom! Yi Kun's body slammed into the side of the cliff. Blood spurted out of his 7 orifices. His consciousness was in a daze and he almost fainted. Chapter 730. Yi Kun collapsed on the ground and struggled to sit up. He looked at Yi Qinghan with a bitter smile, his face full of unwillingness. "Withdraw your soul from the Godhead and give it to me," Yi Qinghan said coldly. "Impossible." Yi Kun gritted his teeth and still wanted to resist. "Then don't blame me for being heartless. Yi Qinghan grabbed Yi Kuen's neck and waved his iron fist, wanting to smash Yi Kuen's head. Yi Qinghan looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Do you want to know the last words of my parents?" Boom! Yi Qinghan's fist landed on the cliff from the side of Yi Kuen's head. His body trembled and he asked hoarsely, "What did they say before they left? Is it my fault?" "Ha ha, you want to know? Did you care about them?" Yi Kuen questioned. "I don't care. If I didn't care, I would have killed you, the unfilial descendant of the Yi family. Do you think I didn't want to hand over the divine martial imperial codex? Do you think I didn't want to save them? At that time, I was only a Dao sovereign. How could I use the imperial codex? How could I save my family?" Yi Qinghan felt aggrieved and threw Yi Kuen onto the cliff. Boom! Yi Kuen crashed onto the cliff and fell to the ground. He climbed up again and his recovery speed was crazy fast. "You didn't do anything wrong. Was it wrong for me to want to cultivate? I wanted to become the god of creation. I wanted to reverse time and save all the living beings on Owl War Planet. Was I wrong?" Yi Kuen asked. "Do you know what the Dark Knight Demon Godhead is? Do you know what kind of existence the Chaos Demonic God is? Do you think the Dark Knight Demonic God is dead? That he gave it to you in peace? How childish and naive. He's only using you as a vessel. One day, he'll devour you until not even your bones are left." Yi Qinghan was exasperated at Chu Feng's failure to live up to his expectations. He really wanted to slap Chu Feng into pieces. The Dark Knight Demonic God is already dead. He is completely dead. Why can't I use his godhead? There is no difference between good and bad godhead and secret techniques. If you have it, you can still save the world. If I have it, you don't trust me. He's just looking down on me. What's the point of saying so much?" Yi Kuen questioned. Yi Qinghan pressed his palm against Yi Kuen's forehead, and his divine sense enveloped the Godhead of Darkness. This Godhead was a sovereign Godhead, and it was indeed larger than the average Godhead. Moreover, it was dark black in color, and it might become darker as one's cultivation level increased. Yi Qinghan's powerful spiritual consciousness, even with the support of the soul-suppressing pearl, was unable to break through the defense and enter the interior of the darkness Godhead. "Lower your defenses," Yi Qinghan said coldly. Yi Kuen pondered for a moment. In the end, he did not go against Yi Qinghan's will and activated his defense. Yi Qinghan wandered around the Godhead, and discovered that the interior of the Dark Knight Demonic God's Godhead was extremely vast. It was countless times larger than his own Godhead. However, Yi Kuen did not have many resources to fill his Godhead. Otherwise, he would not be able to outlast Yi Kuen with just his physical body. After exploring the entire Godhead, Yi Kuen discovered a large amount of memories and inheritances related to the Dark Knight Demonic God's Tao scripture. All of them were sovereign Godhead-level secret techniques that were priceless. However, he also confirmed that the Dark Knight Demonic God was indeed dead. The Dark Knight Demonic God had been imprisoned in the divine tomb for far too long, and he was exhausted to death. Yi Kuen's soul retreated, maintaining a certain distance from Yi Qinghan. He did not allow Yi Qinghan to check his memories. "Sigh, little brother, why are you so stubborn? If I was really heartless to you and did not treat you as family, why would I do this?" Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly, communicating with Yi Kuen through his soul. "It's just that you don't trust me. We are the same. You don't have to scold me. Now, if you want to know the last words of my parents, let me go. We will have nothing to do with each other," Yi Kuen said bluntly. "I can let you go, but you must not have anything to do with the great demonic god. He does not want to achieve immortality. He wants to control all living things and make all living things his slaves. Do you understand?" Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yi Kuen nodded without hesitation. With his personality, how could he be willing to be a slave? My parents said, they do not blame you. We can only blame ourselves for being too weak. We can only rely on you to protect us. Yi Kun said his parents' last words. He was a little sad. Although he was heartless, he still felt guilty toward his parents. These last words hit Yi Qinghan's soft spot. His soul shook as he summoned a cosmos ring and said sadly, I also hope that my brothers can work together and reverse yin and yang. I also hope that one day, when I face a powerful enemy, I can have my younger brother by my side to fight by my side and help me protect my clansmen. There's not much I can do to help you, so keep this ring. Remember, wherever I am, it's your home. If you need me, come back and find me. Also, don't get tainted by the great demonic god's karma. There's always someone better than you. Who dares to say that they are truly invincible in the same realm? You can't do it, and neither can I. Losing to me is not scary, just don't lose to yourself. I understand you. You are not a bad person. I hope that when you do things, you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about what you would want others to do. Then, you can decide. Go, come back when you are tired. Yi Qinghan was sad. He withdrew from the godhead and summoned the star-twisting vine and Pishio, leaving Yi Kun stunned. Wherever I am, it will always be your home. Yi Qinghan's words stirred up memories in Yi Kun's heart. At that time, there was no great Yi clan, only a small Yi clan. When he was bullied, there would always be a big boy who would stand in front of him and fight. He would fight until his head was broken and bleeding, but he would not take half a step back. Yi Kun opened the universe ring and found that it was his. Moreover, there was not a single thing missing from it. There was a high god divine core, top-grade divine crystals, and heavenly treasures. Yi Kun hugged his head and curled up. The tip of his nose was a little sore. He was unable to guess Yi Qinghan's thoughts. He looked at Yi Qinghan's departing figure from the corner of his eye and carefully thought about Yi Qinghan's last words. He hoarsely muttered to himself, am I really that weak? Can I only rely on you to protect me? An ominous glint shot out from Yi Kun's eyes. It was extremely frightening. Yi Kun stood up and rushed out of the one-line sky. The martial breaker ancestor frowned as he watched Yi Qinghan walk out of the one-line sky. He asked in a deep voice, are we letting him go just like that? We're casting a long line to catch a big fish. I hope he can really change, Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Catch what fish? The martial breaker ancestor asked in astonishment. You'll find out in the future. Go back. He won't return to the mythical plane. Even if he does, he won't look for you. Yi Qinghan was exhausted. He did not wish to speak anymore. He pulled out his long blade and left the crowd. Everyone looked at his bleak figure and could feel how pitiful it was to have such a younger brother. Everyone felt sorry for Yi Qinghan, but they also felt sorry for this young hero who was like the sun in the sky. No matter how strong a person was, they would still have weaknesses. Many people were jealous of Yi Kun for having such an elder brother. Chapter 731. Back at Crazed Manor, Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone in the inner sect sighed when they saw how tired he looked. The divine bird, on the other hand, asked curiously, why didn't you kill him? Everyone was stunned. They thought that Yi Qinghan had killed Yi Kun, which was why he looked so haggard. It turned out that he didn't kill him. I have a use for him. I want to use him to bury the great demon god. I know Yi Kun's character. He won't amount to much. If I put him beside the great demon god will be killed by him sooner or later, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Everyone was enlightened. Yi Kun was indeed a troublemaker. He couldn't do things well, but he was definitely a troublemaker. The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. He even used his own brother. It seemed like it wasn't the only one who was tricking others. Yi Qinghan shook his head helplessly. He couldn't kill Yi Kun with his own hands. He might as well send Yi Kun to the great demon god. He might become his eyes in the future. Now that the situation in the mythological plane is settled, Crazed Manor doesn't need too many experts. I'm going out to train. You guys can also go to the dimensional battlefield or train in the alternate space. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and decided to find a way to break through to the superior god realm. Traveling was the best way. Everyone nodded in agreement. Going to the upper planes was something that would happen sooner or later. However, if they wanted to go to the upper planes, they had to have a master god. Otherwise, Crazed Manor would be feeding the great demon god. That night, Yi Qinghan left quietly. He didn't even bring Emperor Yi with him. He passed through the southern wasteland and entered the greedy wolf plain. He took the opposite route from Yi Kun's. In the abyss, Feng Wuxia and Gu Zihan, who were on the first level, had already reached the 9th level and were officially crowned emperors. They were chosen by the 3 abyss overlords and became the disciples of the high gods. Yan Yunbei's soul, which had been sacrificed in the arena, had been remolded by the 9 remoteness master. If one wanted to return to the mythical plane without being suppressed, they would have to cultivate to the same level as the 9 remoteness master. Even Grand Monarch Shura would be suppressed by him. After Yan Yunbei entered the 9 underworlds, he received the personal teachings of the 9 underworlds master. The 9 underworlds master completely abandoned Yi Qinghan because Yi Qinghan didn't care about him at all. Emperor Yi followed Yi Qinghan, so it was better to nurture a new one. Yan Yunbei had become the most important existence to him, and the 9 serenities had become Yan Yunbei's battlefield, which was extremely suitable for his assassination techniques. With Yi Qinghan's relationship, the 3 of them quickly became familiar with each other. The 3 of them worked together and began their training from the 9th level. They fought their way to the 18th level and once again reached the level of a mid-level god priest. They had refined their flesh and blood, and their aura was like jade. They were no different from those from the other planes. When Yi Qinghan arrived at the Ravenous Wolf Plane, there weren't many experts left. The Ravenous Wolf Exalted had died in battle, so he didn't stay for long. He traveled through the entire plane with the Divine Bird and spent more than 30 years. He did find a lot of good stuff, but there was nothing that he needed now. The 5 elements Tao body had been successfully forged. The next step was the 9 revolution chaos Tao body. The 6 great Taos and 6 laws had to be cultivated to perfection, but if he relied on himself, he might not be able to cultivate a single law to perfection in 1,000 years. He could only rely on luck to find the ancient stone tablet and comprehend the laws and great Taos left behind by the ancient experts. Yi Qinghan had already cultivated the law of space to perfection. He only needed 5 more laws. Yi Qinghan didn't disguise himself. He carried Zhong Kuang on his back so that it would be easier for him to deal with a surprise attack. After all, he was traveling in the outside world and could encounter danger at any time. The Divine Bird was bored to the extreme. There was nothing in the Ravenous Wolf Plane that caught its eye. It lay on Yi Qinghan's broad shoulders and kicked its legs. It lazily said, "Let's go to the next plane. This place is so boring. Even birds don't shit here. There's not even a single expert here." Yi Qinghan shrugged and continued forward. He tore open the void and disappeared into the night. The next day, at the intersection of the Ravenous Wolf Plane and the Clear Moon Plane, there was a bottomless ravine. The suction force of the underground whirlpool was so strong that even mid-level gods couldn't fly. Once they were pulled into the whirlpool, they would die instantly. Yi Qinghan couldn't be bothered to look for a passage. He ran wildly, shattering the whirlpool's force. Zhong Kuan waved mountains and rivers, slashing through the shackles. He soared into the sky and crossed the plane's galaxy. He also avoided the Clear Moon Plane's guardian army. The Clear Moon Plane was one of the larger planes. It was even larger than the Ravenous Wolf Plane. There were several half-step Lord-level powerhouses. Even if they weren't as strong as 9 Serenity Lord, they weren't far off. They might even be more powerful than the ravenous wolf plain. This plain was extremely vast and rich in resources. Mid-level gods were everywhere. There were probably at least 80,000 small plains attached to this plain. Yi Qinghan successfully passed through the plain's protective zone. He evaded the army's detection and entered the depths of the plain. After some investigation, he found out that this plain only had the largest kingdom. The 3 major sects all had half-step lord-level powerhouses overseeing them. They were extremely difficult to deal with. The Clear Moon Divine Kingdom, the Void Spirit Divine Sect, the Divine Qilin Sect, and the Great Path Divine Sect, the 4 major forces covered the sky. They were lofty existences that occupied the entire plane's resources. Even if there were superorganizations, they would have to rely on the Divine Kingdom and the 3 major sections. Yi Qinghan was not interested in the other sects and divine kingdoms. However, he was very interested in the Great Path Divine Sect because the Great Path Divine Sect specialized in the 6 paths. They had never bothered to cultivate other secret skills. Reincarnation, order, cause and effect, chaos, destruction, and fate. This was the first time Yi Qinghan had heard of a sect that specialized in cultivating the Great Tao. It would take 100 years to cultivate a Great Tao to the small success stage. Moreover, one had to be extremely talented. Like Li Feng, it would take at least 1,000 years to reach the large success stage of the Great Tao. As for the Great Perfection stage, it was impossible without 5,000 years. Great paths and nomological laws were completely different. Great paths relied on comprehension, while nomological laws sometimes relied on devouring other people's mystic mysteries to enter the Great Perfection realm. However, Great Tao laws were different. One could only slowly comprehend them. After devouring other people's Great Tao mysteries, one had to understand their own Great Tao. A world in a flower. Everyone's Tao was different. It looks like the Great Path Divine Sect's disciple recruitment is very strict, muttered Yi Qinghan indifferently. Sneak in. Copy their background and secretly learn all the mystic mysteries of the Great Path. It will save you at least a few thousand years of cultivation, said the divine bird excitedly. Fake an identity and participate in this year's Great Path Divine Sect Disciple Selection Competition. Who knows, there might be a Great Perfection Boundary Steal in the Great Path Divine Sect. I don't ask for much. A large Great Perfection Boundary Steal is enough. Yi Qinghan nodded in agreement. In terms of talent, Yi Qinghan was confident that he could enter the Great Path Divine Sect. The only thing that wasn't easy was an identity. The Great Path Divine Sect had to consider the loyalty and background of its disciples. They only recruited people with clean backgrounds, especially those from their territories. Chapter 732. The territory of the Great Path Divine Sect spanned hundreds of millions of miles. It was the size of a mythical plain. There were many strong cultivators and countless strong cultivators. Yi Qinghan entered the territory in a low-key manner. He disguised himself as a middle-level god worshipper, which was within the requirements of the Great Path Divine Sect. The Great Path Divine Sect is going to start the disciple assessment again. All the major manors are selecting young talents. I heard that if a major manor produces an outer sect disciple, the manor master will be rewarded with a high-level god divine core. If an inner sect expert emerges, forget it. Don't even talk about the Great Path Divine Sect. It's already not bad if you can enter the 8 major sects under the sect. Yi Qinghan passed by a small city. There were many young people on the streets discussing and listening carefully. This was much faster than asking for information. The group was still discussing. Yi Qinghan stopped and looked at a stall set up by a child who looked like a beggar. There were all kinds of things on it, but most of them were worthless. Yi Qinghan flipped through the small parts and listened to the group discussing the Great Path Divine Sect. Little guy, where did these things come from? Yi Qinghan looked up and saw the child's determined eyes. He couldn't help but sigh. How good would it be if Yi Kun could be so sensible? I picked them up. Esteemed master, do you see anything you like? It's very cheap. One high-grade spirit crystal for one, big or small. The 8 or 9-year-old youth was very thin. His animal skin clothes were a bit tattered, but they were very clean and had spiritual roots. With some training, he could become a middle-level god worshipper, let alone a high-level god worshipper. The divine bird rolled its eyes, knowing that Yi Qinghan's sympathy had overflowed again. It listlessly flipped over and looked sideways at the junk in front of it. Suddenly, its eyes lit up and it fell directly from Yi Qinghan's shoulder onto the stall. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the divine bird pushed aside the messy items and took out a black talisman. It was engraved with inscriptions. It held it in its arms and jumped back onto its shoulder. It said calmly, "I'll buy it. I'll give you a high-grade spirit crystal. Consider it cheap." When had the child ever seen a high-grade spirit crystal? He had even seen the mid-grade and low-grade divine crystals before, but the divine bird had actually tossed him a high-grade one. For a moment, he didn't dare to take it. The clamor in the surroundings came to an abrupt end. A piece of high-grade divine crystal was not a lot, but it was a lot in this small town. Some of the lower-level priests and mid-level priests stared at the high-grade divine crystals in the children's stalls with unfriendly gazes. Their eyes were filled with greed. The child didn't dare to take the divine crystal, and the child was staring at the divine crystal so blatantly. Yi Qinghan knew that giving him a high-grade divine crystal was no different from harming him. "Is there anyone else in your family?" Yi Qinghan asked calmly. I have a younger sister." The child looked at Yi Qinghan nervously. "Where are your parents? Where are our clansmen?" Yi Qinghan frowned. "Father and mother were killed by strange beasts. My sister and I didn't have the ability, so we were expelled from the family." The child's hands were crossed, and his fingernails were almost piercing into his flesh. "Take the divine crystal and stand up. Take me to your sister. Follow me from now on. I will arrange a life for you in the future." Yi Qinghan stood up and coldly scanned the surroundings. His greedy eyes made everyone feel like they had fallen into an icy cavern. They trembled and hurriedly averted their gazes. The divine bird hurriedly reminded him, "We are going to take him as our master. It's not good to bring two burdens along, right? What is that talisman? You threw a piece of high-grade divine crystal. I reckon it must be worth quite a lot. You took something good from him and even caused his death. Can you live with your conscience?" Yi Qinghan asked with a frown. "That talisman isn't anything good. I took it because it was fun. I have plenty of high-grade divine crystals. I gave him one to help him." "Don't overthink it," the divine bird said hurriedly as it put away the talisman. It would be a miracle if Yi Qinghan believed it. The child hurriedly got up and grabbed the high-grade divine crystal. He rolled up a huge pile of trash and carried it on his back. He raised his head and looked at Yi Qinghan. The divine bird rolled its eyes and said to the child, "Throw that trash away. Do you think you will starve if you follow this rich man? All that trash isn't even worth a piece of low-grade divine crystal. Don't you find it tiring to carry it?" The child looked at Yi Qinghan and could not bear to throw it away. Yi Qinghan shook his head and threw a small universe ring to him. He said calmly, "Bite your finger and drip a drop of blood on it. You will sense a space. Just put everything in this bag into it." The child knew that this was a universe ring. Only the rich could afford it. He hurriedly put it away and bit his finger hard. The ring was dyed red with blood. Poor little thing. Why are you even more pitiful than little master when he was young? The divine bird shook its head and said. The child quickly took control of the universe ring and used it freely. He was very happy. He smiled at Yi Qinghan and said respectfully, "Master, thank you. Let's go." Yi Qinghan said calmly. The child was very talkative on the way. He told Yi Qinghan that his name was Qin Chusher. His sister had a very strange name, Qin Wentian. It did not sound like a girl's name at all. The people who named her were the parents of the parents. Perhaps only they knew why the girl was called Qin Wentian. Qin Chusher jogged all the way and arrived at the outskirts of a remote village. There was a small wooden house that was at most 2 meters tall. The courtyard was surrounded by a fence. The wooden door was locked with a wooden stick to prevent Qin Wentian from running out and being eaten by wild beasts. Yi Qinghan did not need to open the door to see a 3 or 4-year-old child in the courtyard. He was very delicate and pretty, white and chubby. He was playing on the ground with a small wooden stick in his hand. His tender little hand actually ignored the solid wood and went through it. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He looked at the divine bird and asked hoarsely, "Did I see wrongly? What's going on?" The divine bird was also stunned. It clearly saw the scene just now. Qin Wentian really did use his little hand to go through the wooden stick. It was as if there was nothing blocking it, there was no obstruction. Qin Chusher did not know that his sister had this ability. Otherwise, he would not have built a fence to form a courtyard. He opened the door and ran over to hug Qin Wentian. His face was full of love as he asked if she was hungry. Qin Wentian shook her head. Her big eyes looked at Yi Qinghan. She was a little puzzled. It had been many days since an outsider came to their house. "Little Wentian, do what you did just now again." Yi Qinghan was curious. He was afraid that he had seen wrongly. Qin Wentian did not know why Yi Qinghan wanted him to do that. In any case, it was not difficult. In front of her, his little hand went through the wooden stick that was as thick as an arm. This time, Yi Qinghan was even more shocked. Such a strange thing, let alone a child, even if it happened to a medium god priest, as long as he was not a wood element medium god priest, it would be impossible for him to do this. Yi Qinghan looked around and found a rusty metal piece in the courtyard. He gave it to Qin Wentian again and said in a serious tone, "Go through it again and show me." Qin Wentian did not hesitate. His little hand was not obstructed at all and directly went through the metal piece. "What kind of constitution is this?" Yi Qinghan asked the divine bird. "You're asking me? How would I know?" The divine bird replied bluntly. "Aren't you omniscient?" Yi Qinghan was speechless. A constitution was enough to stump the divine bird. "You think you're omnipotent? Go and fight with the main god." The divine bird said disdainfully. Chapter 733. It was too strange. Yi Qinghan had never seen a body like this before. He tested it several times, but the child could pass through it without any resistance, be it stone, wood, or metal. "She's only 4 years old. She doesn't have any cultivation at all." Yi Qinghan was shocked. This was even more unacceptable than the sudden appearance of a god. Qin Chusher was also shocked by his sister's ability. He never knew she had this kind of ability. He looked at Yi Qinghan in confusion and realized that even Yi Qinghan was confused. "Are you sure Wentian is your sister?" Yi Qinghan was a bit suspicious of this little girl's background. It was impossible for her to be born in such a small place. She should be. "My parents went out to travel for a while, and when they came back, they told me that I had a sister. At that time, she was just born." Qin Chusher wasn't very sure. After all, it was 4 years ago, and he was only 5 years old. It was already good that he could remember this. Yi Qinghan knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of Qin Chusher, so he gave up on pursuing Qin Wentian's background. The only people who knew her identity were probably Qin Chushi's dead parents. "Come with me." Yi Qinghan took Qin Wentian and put her on his shoulder. He and the divine bird each took one side of her and stepped into the city. Along the way, Yi Qinghan inquired about the background of the Qin clan and found out that Qin Wentian's father had a younger brother. However, this younger brother had also gone missing. If not, these two little fellows wouldn't have been chased out of the Qin clan at such a young age. The competition between clans was often crueler than society. For useless people, clans would never waste any resources. Qin Wentian and Qin Chushir weren't the first, and they wouldn't be the last. Some were lucky enough to make a comeback, but most of them weren't lucky enough and died at a very young age. From now on, I'm your uncle. Qin Yu, do you understand? Yi Qinghan said. Qin Chusong didn't really understand, but he still nodded. As for Qin Wentian, she was just a 4-year-old child. She didn't even know how to ask. They entered the town again and went to a restaurant. Yi Qinghan ordered a large number of spirit fruits and food with spirituality. For cultivators, eating was secondary. The most important thing was to absorb energy from food. Furthermore, the two little ones did not have any cultivation, so eating was a must. Soon, a large number of meat dishes were served in the private room. Most of them were the meat of vicious beasts, which possessed spirituality. It was the favorite of weak practitioners. The wasted physical strength and spiritual power needed to be replenished by these spiritual meat. Qin Wentian and Qin Chuj seemed to have never enjoyed such delicacies before. Looking at the spirit fruits and spirit meat on the table, they kept wiping their mouths, drooling non-stop. Eat. Eat as much as you can. From today onwards, you can start cultivating, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The two little ones wolfed down the food, but the divine bird didn't have any appetite. It took out higher-grade divine fruits from its spatial ring. However, the two children's cultivation was too low, so they couldn't eat them. However, Yi Qinghan had a way to make them eat higher-grade things. He crushed the divine fruits into juice and sprinkled it directly into the spiritual meat. Then, he used a high-grade divine flame to refine the divinity into the spiritual meat, making it melt in the mouth. The two little ones actually swallowed an entire table of food. It seemed that they were really starving. Moreover, most of the food was spiritual, so it turned into spiritual power as soon as it entered the body. It didn't take up much space in the stomach. After a full meal, Qin Chuj and Qin Wentian successfully entered the blood ignition realm. After wasting so many divine fruits and Yi Qinghan's efforts, if they didn't enter the threshold of cultivation, they would feel sorry for Yi Qinghan. Uncle, it's delicious. I want to eat it. Qin Wentian looked at the divine fruit in the divine bird's claw and drooled. Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. This child was so weak. Could he really eat a high-grade divine fruit? In order to prevent him from hurting Qin Chuj, Yi Qinghan called over a high-grade spirit fruit and a mid-grade spirit fruit. He tested them one by one and found that Qin Wentian was really strange. With such a weak body, eating a high-grade spirit fruit would only rapidly change his physical body. His meridians didn't show any signs of being broken by spiritual power. Yi Qinghan took out the lowest grade divine fruit and pushed it in front of Qin Wentian. He said gently, "You can only eat one bite at a time. Don't bite too much." Qin Wentian grabbed the divine fruit and took a big bite. As expected, his young body reacted. The speed of his blood flow increased by several times. He directly broke through several small realms and rushed into the heavenly passage realm. Yi Qinghan's body trembled. This little guy's physique was even more terrifying than Yi Qingtian's. Damn! Freak! The divine bird spat out the divine fruit and said with wide eyes. Qin Chuj was very envious. However, he knew that if he ate this divine fruit, his body would instantly explode and he would die. Qin Wentian wanted to eat more but was stopped by Yi Qinghan. This wasn't something that the more he ate, the better. If he ate too much, it would only harm his weak body. It was better to take it step by step. Alright, let's hurry to the Great Tao Divine Sect. Yi Qinghan carried Qin Wentian and brought Qin Chuj downstairs. Yi Qinghan tossed a piece of low-grade divine crystal and soared into the sky with Qin Chusong in tow. Rushing through the night, Qin Chusong and Qin Wentian found it difficult to withstand the astral winds above them. Hence, Yi Qinghan slowed down his speed. After half a month, they only covered half of the distance. However, there was still a month before the Great Tao Divine Sect's examination. Yi Qinghan had enough time to hurry. Along the way, they ate and played. Yi Qinghan was relaxed and at ease. He comprehended the great Tao of heaven and earth. After walking for 10,000 miles, it was as if he had cultivated for 100 years. His state of mind was slowly improving. Although it was very slow, it was very stable. Some people saw that Yi Qinghan was carrying a broadsword and had 2 children beside him. No one made things difficult for him. The journey was very peaceful. After another half a month, Yi Qinghan finally brought the 2 children to the nearest big city under the Great Tao Divine Sect. It was only a few hundred miles away from the Great Tao Divine Sect. The 2 children cheered and clapped their hands. They became familiar with Yi Qinghan along the way and really treated Yi Qinghan as family. This was especially true for Qin Wentian. He didn't know anything and didn't hesitate to ask for anything. As long as it was something strange, there was nothing he didn't like. Sometimes, he would even reach out and pluck the feathers of divine birds. The divine birds were so angry that they almost spat fire. If it wasn't for her special physique, she wouldn't have been able to endure it. Yi Qinghan didn't stop and entered the inner city. He decided to settle down here first. He found an official and bought a house, spending 50,000 high-grade divine crystals. Indeed, every inch of land was worth an inch of gold. This big city was the private property of the Great Tao Divine Sect. Here, it was as safe as the Quang Manor. Other than some inner and outer disciples of the Great Tao Divine Sect who dared to bully others, no one dared to behave atrociously in the city. The house wasn't bad. There was a courtyard house and the main house was a 3-story building. There were mountains, rivers, spiritual herbs, and a small waterfall. There was also a small training ground in the middle. Although 50,000 high-grade divine crystals was a little expensive, it wasn't considered a scam. Yi Qinghan recruited 2 maids from outside to take care of the children's daily needs. After that, he went into seclusion to prepare for the Great Tao Divine Sect's examination. Chapter 734. Yi Qinghan had been stuck at the Great Circle of the God Realm. He had wasted a large number of deity crystals, but he still hadn't been able to make a breakthrough. The godhood in his body and the profound mysteries of the laws he cultivated had already reached the Great Circle of the God Realm. Yi Qinghan's battle prowess was a strong advantage, but it was extremely difficult to break through. If he only had one godhood, it would only take him a few months to reach the high God realm. But now, he had spent dozens of years, and there was still a barrier blocking him. Half a month passed quickly, and Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion. Although he didn't break through, his cultivation had improved by 30%. It was easy for him to deal with an ordinary high god, and he could even protect himself against an old high god like the Cannon King. Uncle, I've missed you. Qin Wentian ran towards Yi Qinghan with small steps. It had only been a month since they met Yi Qinghan, but Qin Wentian had already reached the Tao sovereign realm from a child with no cultivation. However, she didn't cultivate any secret arts, mainly because she was too young, only 4 years old. It wouldn't be good for her to cultivate secret arts too early. Yi Qinghan bent down and picked Qin Wentian up. Seeing that Qin Chuj's cultivation base hadn't increased, but his cultivation of secret arts and techniques were not bad, especially the heavenly dragon coiling eagle hands, he couldn't help but nod. Not bad, continue to work hard. I don't want you to break through, but I want you to be invincible in the same realm. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Chusher and took out 2 sets of white robes, one big and one small. He said, I'm going to the Great Tao Divine Sect to take the test, and I don't know when I'll be back. Don't go out during this time and cultivate in the house. If you need anything, have the housekeeper buy it for you. Wear this set of divine robes, the Heavenly Dipper 8 trigrams formation, which combines both offense and defense. It shouldn't be a problem for you to block a peak middle god for 2 hours. As for high god priests, they won't attack you. Qin Chusong looked at the white clothes and liked them very much. He took a big set and nodded. Uncle, I'll definitely protect my sister. Yi Qinghan couldn't understand Qin Wentian's identity and physique. He always felt that they were fated to be together. Hence, he spent a lot of effort on Qin Wentian's body, creating an even stronger divine protective robe for her. Even the full-powered attack of a superior god priest might not be able to break through Qin Wentian's defense within 3 strikes. Yi Qinghan ordered the female housekeeper to change Qin Wentian's clothes. Yi Qinghan nodded his head and hung the exquisite dagger on Qin Wentian's waist. This dagger contained a strand of his divine sense, allowing him to control everything within 1,000 miles. Killing someone from 1,000 miles away was extremely easy. He covered the dagger with his white clothes and repeatedly reminded the 2 maidservants not to bring the 2 children out of the city. Finally, he gave the housekeeper 10,000 upper grade, 10,000 middle grade, and 10,000 lower grade coins, which were enough for the 4 of them to live for a long time. The 2 maidservants had never seen such a generous master. They also had never seen a master who trusted his maidservants so much. They couldn't help but feel grateful towards Yi Qinghan. I don't care about these divine crystals. As long as you take good care of the 2 children, this house will be yours after I leave. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Many thanks, esteemed lord. Little Z will definitely serve the young master and princess with all her heart. The housekeeper quickly bowed and said. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the courtyard and found that the city had increased by a lot. Young geniuses were everywhere. All of them were arrogant and domineering. Clearly, they were all here for the examination as if they would definitely be able to enter the Great Tao Divine Sect. Don't cause trouble for me. This is Great Abyss City, not your family's land. If anyone dares to cause trouble here, I'll kill them with a single palm strike. A young man wearing the Great Tao Divine Sect's disciple uniform said arrogantly. He was followed by a few other young men. All of them were unruly and disdainful of these geniuses. However, they were very polite to the people here. Just based on these people's attitude towards the people, the Great Tao Divine Sect shouldn't be bad. As for their attitude towards these young geniuses, which young genius wasn't arrogant? Therefore, Yi Qinghan's first impression of the Great Tao Divine Sect wasn't bad. He followed the crowd to the Great Tao Divine Sect and listened to their discussions. He learned that the examination method of the Great Tao Divine Sect was very simple. There were only 3 major stages and 1 minor stage. The first major stage was an illusion. It tested one's loyalty. The longer one stayed in the illusion, the more points one would receive. The second stage tested one's luck. Everyone would be placed in a huge space to search for fixed divine medicines. The more they found, the more points they could exchange for. The third stage tested one's perception of the Great Tao. Under the guidance of the Great Tao Divine Sect's elders, they would enter the mystery of the Great Tao. If they could learn 3 moves, they would be an outer disciple. If they could learn 6 moves, they would be an inner disciple. If they could learn all 10 moves, they would be summoned by the Great Tao Divine Sect's Supreme Elder. Each move they learned would be worth 1,000 points, with the highest being 10,000 points. The last minor stage was simply to ask about one's origin. If one passed the first 3 stages, the last minor stage was just a formality. It seems that the examination method of the Great Tao Divine Sect is similar to that of the Crazy Sect. The illusion didn't affect me at all. My luck isn't bad either. Let's see how the third stage goes. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and thought. There were about hundreds of thousands of young people who were preparing for the examination. Most of them were lower god priests. There were at least tens of thousands of middle god priests. There were also close to 100 of them who were middle god priests. Yi Qinghan's cultivation was at most above average here, which was very inconspicuous. No one paid attention to Yi Qinghan. He just followed the crowd. He didn't want to draw attention to himself. Hey, Taoist friend, my name is Xiong Dahu. This is my second son, Xiong Eru. You have delicate features. You must be very smart. Why don't you team up with us? The two burly youths were over 2 meters tall. Compared to them, Yi Qinghan was as delicate as a little girl. The two of them looked very simple and honest, and a little silly. Yi Qinghan had no idea how they had managed to cultivate to the level of a mid-level god worshipper. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked at Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru. The two of them were using mountain-splitting hammers, which were twice as big as the gravity maniac. If they hit Yi Qinghan, he would be smashed into meat paste. Do we need to team up? Yi Qinghan didn't know the details of the examination. He couldn't help but ask. Of course. Do you think you can pass the second stage of the examination of luck alone? There will definitely be fighting. It seems like you aren't smart either. I thought you were looking for a military advisor. It turns out that you are even more stupid than us. Xiong Dahu shook his head in dissatisfaction and turned to leave. Yi Qinghan was speechless. This was the first time someone called him stupid. Moreover, it was two big men who looked stupid. Xiong Dahu, Xiong Eru, come. He isn't smart, but with this divine bird here, he will team up with you. The divine bird suddenly ran out and flapped its wings, inviting the two silly men with a sincere attitude. My name is Xiong Dahu. Xiong Dahu glared at the divine bird and said unhappily. That's right, Xiong Dahu. Aren't you the boss? I'll call you Xiong Dahu and your brother Xiong Eru. Isn't that just right? The divine bird said indifferently. This stupid bird seems to be right. Xiong Eru scratched his head and said. Damn! You dare call this divine bird a stupid bird? You two idiots, do you know who I am? I am the 10,000 beasts divine emperor, an intelligent almighty. I am a treasure hunter. You dare call me stupid? This divine bird is infuriating. The divine bird was going crazy. It felt like its intelligence was being affected. Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru obviously didn't know the divine bird's origin, but that didn't stop them from cooperating. They said, the two of us will be in charge of protecting you. You have to help me find the divine medicine. When the time comes, we will split it into 3. Everyone will be fair. Yi Qinghan was speechless. Although these two idiots had good combat strength, their brains didn't seem to work well. However, they seemed to be quite smart. They actually knew how to split it into 3. 1. For, don't you think this divine bird needs it? I am known as a treasure hunter. The most valuable treasure in the world can't escape my eyes. With me around, you will definitely pass, but you have to treat me as your big brother. Do you understand? The divine bird said proudly. What are you doing? Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice. It was just a test. Why did he need teammates? These two idiots are quite interesting. They can cultivate to this level despite being so stupid. It seems that their luck is not bad. Let's play with them. The divine bird snorted and transmitted his voice. Yi Qinghan was helpless. Anyway, he did need someone who was familiar with the Clear Moon realm. It didn't matter if these two idiots followed him. He nodded and agreed. Then 1, 4. You're lucky, you silly boy. Xiong Dahu waved his hand and slapped Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Yi Qinghan's entire body sank. The stone floor under the ground collapsed, alarming the disciples of the great divinity sect. A few disciples looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and realized that he was also passively damaging things. When they looked at Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru, they shook their heads. These two idiots were quite famous in the great divinity sect. They were famous for being stupid. It was a waste of time to argue with them. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the slap, but he couldn't stand being looked at like this. He couldn't help but snort coldly. Let go. In the future, don't touch me without my permission. Did I hurt you? Xiong Dahu was embarrassed. It seemed that this wasn't the first time he smashed someone into the ground. He even knew that Yi Qinghan would feel pain. Yi Qinghan turned and left. Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru didn't know why, but when they first saw Yi Qinghan, they felt that following him was the right thing to do. Therefore, even though Yi Qinghan's attitude was a little bad, they didn't care. After all, they were stupid. Soon, all the young experts who came for the assessment gathered in front of the great divinity sect. The great divinity sect seemed to be floating in the clouds. Just as everyone arrived, an old man in white with an immortal aura descended in front of everyone. Following closely behind was a pair of golden boy and jade girl. They both looked to be around 20 years old. In fact, they were more than 2,000 years old. Their cultivation was actually at the high divinity realm. Even if their combat power was weaker than Li Feng's, they could still be compared to some people in the inner sect. Greetings, esteemed lord. Hundreds of thousands of people bowed at the same time. It seemed that the old man, the man, and the woman all had a high status. All of you, rise. The old man nodded slightly and raised his hand. Everyone couldn't help but straighten their bodies. Even Yi Qinghan felt that there was an irresistible will supporting him. Very strong. He's about the same as the esteemed Lord of Greed. However, he's still not at the level of the Lord of the Abyss. Yi Qinghan quickly determined the old man's combat power. He couldn't help but think more highly of the great divinity sect. Chapter 735. The first test was an illusion test. Everyone saw a different plot, but most of the things that revolved around it were similar. It was to test a person's credibility. 10 illusions were activated at the same time, and each illusion could test 100 people. Once one betrayed one's oath in the illusion, one would be kicked out of the illusion. If one could hold on for the duration of an incense stick, one would basically pass. If one could not hold on for the duration of an incense stick, there was no need to take the next 3 tests. After the old man explained, he introduced, these two are the chief disciples of the Great Path sect's 9th generation. They are Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng. They might also be your future senior brother and sister. To become the chief disciples of the younger generation, their cultivation would definitely not be weak. Moreover, they were high-ranking gods. Some of their great paths might have already entered the realm of great accomplishment. Yi Qinghan sized up the two and nodded secretly. There was always someone better than you. This was just the tip of the iceberg. It was really rare to meet such experts. The 10 great matrices shone with boundless divine light. They contained order and rules. The profound mysteries of the great path filled time. These illusory matrices were different from the illusory matrices that Emperor Yi had created. Her Guqin path caused illusions, but the illusory matrices here were illusory matrices created by the great path. They were very close to reality. 10 illusions, 10 worlds. 10,000 people could be tested in 2 hours. With hundreds of thousands of people, the first test would take 1.5 days. Meng Xinghuan's figure was tall and straight, standing proudly like a poplar tree. There was a flame on his left shoulder. It was obviously a 15th grade flame. It was almost invisible. Even if it was just embroidered, it had a terrifyingly high temperature. However, Yi Qinghan noticed that there was a dark color around the flame. There was darkness in the flame. He muttered to himself, he's also a powerhouse with two divine personas. Fire and shadow divine personas. Feng Yuesheng had a golden divine whip wrapped around her waist. Everyone in the clear moon realm knew that it was the Nirvana divine whip. One lash from the whip was enough to turn a powerhouse into ashes instantly. She looked peerless and gentle, but in reality, she had a fiery personality and was swift and decisive. Even Meng Xinghuan had to give her some leeway. She had the phoenix bloodline and was known as the immortal body. She had died in battle several times and was reborn through nirvana each time. She could achieve a breakthrough with each major tribulation. If she were to undergo nirvana again, it was very likely that she would become a half-step lord. Dressed in a fiery red phoenix robe, Feng Yuesheng stood with her arms crossed in front of her chest as she looked down on everyone. Her thin lips were slightly raised with a hint of disdain. Junior sister, how many of these people do you think will be able to enter the inner sect? Meng Xinghuan asked indifferently. No more than 10 people. None of them can make me serious. How boring. Feng Yuesheng shook her head and prepared to leave. Let's wait a little longer. There might be hidden powerhouses, Meng Xinghuan said with a smile. At that moment, the great elder said in a dignified voice, line up according to the sequence. Each team has 100 people. Anyone who can last for an incense stick's time in the illusion will be given another identity card here. Someone will bring you into the outer sect to prepare for tomorrow's second assessment. Swoosh, 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 everyone quickly lined up. No one spoke. The Great Path Divine Sect's assessment was very strict. Whoever dared to say anything would be expelled on the spot. In the worst case, they would be killed on the spot. Yi Qinghan and Big Bear's team were in the same team. The two fools actually stood in a serious manner and looked at the old man seriously, waiting for the assessment. The first 10 teams will be assessed first. The old man's deep voice boomed continuously outside the Great Path Mountain, reverberating in every corner. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 10 teams charged towards the 10 illusion arrays respectively. Yi Qinghan was in the third column and had to wait for a long time. However, Yi Qinghan wasn't in a hurry. As soon as the 10 teams entered the illusion array, an illusion appeared. Some people appeared to be searching for treasures with their family and friends. When they found a supreme treasure, they were greedy and killed their family members to seize the supreme treasure. They were instantly ejected by the array. There were also people who stood back to defend against the enemy. However, in order to survive, most of them abandoned their teammates. In 5 breaths, half of the 10,000 people were eliminated. It was too fast. Such elimination speed made the others dumbfounded. They had no idea what the eliminated people encountered inside. The eliminated people were ashamed. How would they dare to tell others why they were eliminated? Would they still have the face to go out in the future? Who would be willing to cooperate with them? The eliminated people quickly left. What do you think they encountered in the illusion array? Xiongde asked Yi Qinghan with a serious face. Idiot, since it's a test of loyalty, of course it's targeting loyalty. No matter what you encounter in the illusion array, don't give up on your teammates. Even if you die, don't give up because it's just an illusion array. It's not real death. Once you give up on your teammates, your life is over. The divine bird seemed to be quite interested in these two silly men. It didn't cheat them and instead, gave them instructions seriously. Yi Qinghan also nodded. The loyalty test was nothing more than a few things. However, many people couldn't control themselves because of greed. Once they were excited, they would forget that they were taking the test. That kind of immersive feeling would make people go crazy. In the first team, only 3 people lasted for an incense stick's time. Moreover, the three of them were quickly ejected after an incense stick's time. Not only did the old man shake his head in dissatisfaction, Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng were even more dissatisfied. Looking at those who were eliminated, their eyes were full of disdain. The second team started, and the outcome was even more miserable than the first team. Only one person lasted for an incense stick's time. The rest were all eliminated. Why are the people who came to take the test this time so weak? The great elder frowned. Humph, it must be those people's doing. They took away the real elites in advance and left behind some trash. Feng Yuesheng said angrily. Meng Xinghuan was also quite helpless. Now that the great divine sect was being eyed covetously by experts, the real elites probably wouldn't want to join the great divine sect. Let's look at two more teams. If they can't do it, then let's go back. Meng Xinghuan sighed. In the third group, Yi Qinghan was in this group. He brought the divine bird and stepped into one of the illusion arrays. Feng Yuesheng's eyes swept to Yi Qinghan and looked at the parrot on his shoulder. She snorted and couldn't suppress her fiery temper. She said coldly, "What do you think the great divine sect is? Is it a place where he plays with birds? Forget it. Maybe it's his spiritual pet." Meng Xinghuan shook his head. His expression became uglier and uglier, and he became more and more disappointed. Yi Qinghan didn't take the discussion between them to heart, but how could the divine bird not take it to heart? Just as it was about to teach the two ignorant children a lesson, Yi Qinghan had already stepped into the illusion array. As soon as he entered the illusion array, his mind and spirit became one. His inner demons wouldn't disturb him. His eyes looked straight ahead, and everything was illusory. The Order Great Tao constantly distorted time and space, switching treasures. Only Yi Qinghan was calm and relaxed. He flew leisurely and looked at the mystery of the Order Great Tao. Is this an illusion created by the Order Great Tao? It's just a so-so. The divine bird was proud and said with extreme disdain, however, the treasures that are created inside are quite awesome. It would be great if they really existed. Chapter 736. Illusions were of no use to Yi Qinghan. After all, his will was firm and would not be affected by external forces. With the addition of the soul-suppressing orb, even if the illusory formation was 10 times more powerful, it would still be difficult to shake his will. It was even more useless to the divine bird. However, the others were not so lucky. When greed and fear reached their peak, teammates and loyalty would all vanish into thin air. Very quickly, some people revealed their true intentions. A large number of experts were eliminated. If they had evil intentions, once they acted, the Great Tao illusory formation would automatically sense them and directly kick them out. In 10 breaths, 90% of the experts in Yi Qinghan's illusory formation had been eliminated. After a stick of incense, only the two silly Xiongde and Xiong were left. They stared at each other and clawed at the void. At this moment, they had already fallen into the illusory formation. Yi Qinghan turned his head and looked at the two silly faces. He could not help but be speechless. However, the two did not kill each other because of the treasures. This was also commendable. Ha ha ha, so many divine herbs. We're rich. Xiong Dahu laughed loudly and clawed at the void. In his view, he had grabbed many divine herbs, but in Yi Qinghan's eyes, he was just a fool going crazy. Boss, should we leave some for that dumb egg and dumb bird? Xiong asked excitedly. Since we're working together, let's leave some for him and dumb bird. We'll leave more for ourselves, Xiong Dahu replied without hesitation. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird looked at each other. These two idiots were not greedy and actually knew to leave some for them. However, to be called dumb egg and dumb bird by these two silly people, Yi Qinghan and the divine bird were speechless. These two silly. The divine bird wanted to rush over and teach them a lesson, but it was stopped by Yi Qinghan. Continue watching. Let's see how long they can last. Yi Qinghan leaned on a rock in the illusory formation and looked at Xiongda and Xiong with interest. With the passage of time, more and more treasures appeared in the eyes of Big Bear and Second Bear. They were no longer interested in the assessment treasures, but real peerless supreme treasures. Although there was only one supreme treasure, it still couldn't break the bond between the two brothers. No matter how greedy they were, they knew that they were thinking for each other. The more Yi Qinghan looked at them, the more satisfied he became. Although the two of them were a little silly and simple-minded, they were loyal to each other. Their brotherly relationship was indeed genuine. Fortune favors fools. The divine bird sneered. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan, Xiongda, and Xiong were still not kicked out of the illusory array. Everyone in the outside world was talking about it. The great elder of the Great Path Divine Sect nodded with satisfaction. However, they could not see what was going on inside the illusory array. They did not know that the illusory array was useless against Yi Qinghan. Humph, I underestimated him. Feng Yuesheng realized that Yi Qinghan was not kicked out and couldn't help but snort. There is always someone better. Junior sister, don't be limited by appearances. Meng Xinghuan said indifferently. Xinghuan, investigate this person's background. The great elder said calmly. As for Xiong Dahu and Second Bear, even a 10-year-old child in the Great Path Divine Sect knew that the two of them were fools. They were born with extraordinary strength and their defense was even more terrifying. They fought without any regard for their lives and did things without using their brains. When others hit them, it was like scratching an itch. However, if they were hit by a hammer, they would be severely injured even if they didn't die. Therefore, even the young disciples in the Great Path Divine Sect couldn't be bothered to argue with them, let alone investigate their background. However, the great elder naturally had to investigate Yi Qinghan, an expert who appeared out of nowhere. Meng Xinghuan mobilized the spies of the Great Path Divine Sect and quickly found out that Yi Qinghan had bought a house in the Great Abyss City and registered it as Qinyu. There were also 4 people in the house, 2 children and 2 maidservants. Meng Xinghuan quickly appeared in the house and questioned the 2 maidservants. Under the situation where there was no prior communication, they respectfully addressed Yi Qinghan as Qinyu. For insurance, he also questioned Qin Wentian separately. He felt that a 4-year-old child shouldn't lie. Qin Wentian seriously replied, my uncle is called Qinyu. Do you know him? Meng Xinghuan looked at the adorable little Wentian and hurriedly said, of course I know him. I'm here to test you. Do you know where you are from? We are from the Qin town of the Shang City Prefecture. Who are you? Where is my uncle? Qin Wentian raised his head and asked. Meng Xinghuan smiled embarrassedly, feeling that he shouldn't have lied to this little fellow. He looked at Qin Wentian confidently and felt that there was no need to continue probing. Unless Qin Wentian was a 1,000-year-old monster, it was impossible for him to deceive his eyes. After casually exchanging a few words, Meng Xinghuan was prepared to leave when he suddenly noticed the short dagger at Qin Wentian's waist. His eyes narrowed. As a superior god priest, how could he not recognize a superior god weapon? I didn't expect him to care so much about these 2 children. Their clothes are all equipped with defensive and offensive formations. I'm afraid that even if I were to use my full power, I might not be able to kill these 2 little fellows. To think that this little girl even has a superior god weapon on her. Seems like this Qinyu must have obtained a divine treasury before. Meng Xinghuan didn't think too much about it. He only felt that Qinyu must have obtained a divine treasury when he was out adventuring. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so strong and wouldn't have a divine weapon. In a small place like the Qin town, it was already very impressive for an extreme Dao expert to appear, let alone a superior god weapon. Meng Xinghuan cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian before silently disappearing from the courtyard. Within the illusory formation, what Big Bear and Little Bear were facing was no longer treasures, but life and death. When only one could survive, the two brothers were actually unwilling to leave. Instead, they fought side by side, each letting the other one leave first. Two idiots. The divine bird snorted. Yi Qinghan smiled and walked up, giving each of them a kick. Big Bear and Little Bear fell to the ground. With a cold expression, he said, "Didn't I tell you? This is just an illusory formation. Don't be affected by external things." The two of them were dazed for quite a while before they understood. They said regretfully, "What a pity. We obtained so many divine medicines for the second round, idiots, that's just an illusory formation. Even if you obtained a master god weapon, it's useless." The divine bird coldly laughed. Outside the illusory formation, Meng Xinghuan transmitted the news to the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder's face was filled with joy as he sighed. It's been many years since someone obtained full marks in the first round. It's not strange for those two idiots to obtain full marks. However, that young man has exceeded my expectations. Maybe he can shield himself from the illusory formation. Whether or not he's loyal still needs to be tested. Feng Yuesheng didn't seem to have a good impression of Yi Qinghan. She always felt that he was a silk pants. Which expert would have a parrot by his side? 2 hours passed, and the other experts in the illusory formation had long been eliminated. Only 2 people managed to last for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Now, 3 people actually obtained full marks in one go. This caused everyone to discuss. Chapter 737. Feng Yuesheng looked at Yi Qinghan's calm appearance and felt that he was pretending. Looking at the divine bird's insufferably arrogant appearance, she naturally felt that the divine bird was the portrayal of Yi Qinghan. No matter how he pretended, he couldn't escape her eyes. "Humph, a playboy is a playboy." Feng Yuesheng coldly snorted. Yi Qinghan calmly looked at her and turned his head to the side, unwilling to look at her at all. This made Feng Yuesheng even angrier. She thought that Yi Qinghan was playing hard to get, but she didn't know that Yi Qinghan was really not interested in her. A woman is a woman. Even if you give her a supreme divine weapon, she will at most use it as an embroidery needle, right, Xiongde and Xiong'er? The divine bird was unwilling to be outdone and said proudly. Women, do you still expect them to charge and break through the enemy lines?" Xiongde nodded seriously. In his opinion, only men were suitable for cultivation. However, his brain wasn't good. Even if he thought so, he shouldn't say it out loud. Meng Xinghuan didn't expect that this parrot would actually mock people. He couldn't help but look at Feng Yuesheng. Sure enough, Feng Yuesheng clenched her fingers and grabbed the Nirvana divine whip at her waist. Her phoenix eyes flashed coldly as she said coldly, "You're courting death. I'll let you see if you can withstand my embroidery needle." Pa! The divine whip shook the void as if it was lashing at the hearts of everyone. The experts at the front turned pale as they spat out a mouthful of blood essence and retreated more than 10 steps. Hua! Xiongde and Xiong'er were also shocked by Feng Yuesheng's actions. They quickly pulled out their sledgehammers and blocked in front. "Silly woman, you scared me to death," Xiong'er said in a muffled voice. This time, Feng Yuesheng was so angry that she went berserk on the spot. However, Meng Xinghuan pressed her shoulder. "Junior sister, it's not like you don't know these two idiots. Aren't you looking for trouble by arguing with them?" Meng Xinghuan reminded with a bitter smile. "Go away, I'm going to beat that bitch to death. Like servant, like master. His master isn't anything good either. How can such trash join my great Tao divine sect?" Feng Yuesheng said furiously. "Fuck, you're really stupid. Big Bear and Second Bear called you a stupid woman, but you actually want to beat this divine bird to death. Can't you tell who's who? How foolish." The divine bird was speechless and pretended to be innocent. Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled. He really wanted to give the divine bird a slap. It would be sad if it didn't stir up trouble for even a day. Qin Yu, it was ordered by you, right? Feng Yuesheng was angry. She couldn't argue with a cheap bird, so she vented her anger on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's expression froze for a moment, but he quickly recovered. He was now Qin Yu, the uncle of Qin Wentian and Qin Chuj. Lord Feng, your nonsense is unreasonable. If you think that I'm not qualified to join the great Tao divine sect, just say it. Why do you have to target me? Since I appeared until now, you've been attacking me and my spirit pet. No matter how bad it is, it's still my spirit pet. If you don't understand it, please don't judge it, okay? Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't have a good impression of this little woman. I attacked you. Your spirit pet called me a woman in front of everyone. Is it my fault? Feng Yuesheng asked angrily. You have to be reasonable when you speak. You were the one who called my master a playboy first. That's why I called you a woman. Besides, my master is not a playboy, but you are a woman. Are you a man? Do you have a man's treasure? No way. So, not only did you misunderstand my master, you even humiliated him in front of everyone. What are your intentions? Are you trying to play hard to get and attract the attention of the great myriad beast divine emperor? This method of attracting men is already outdated. The divine bird said in a strange voice. Roar. Ha ha ha, a large group of people burst into laughter. Even the young disciples of the great Tao divine sect couldn't hold it in. However, they were afraid of Feng Yuesheng's abuse of power and forcibly endured it. Their faces were distorted and twitching, and their bodies were trembling. The corner of Meng Xinghuan's mouth twitched. He didn't expect this parrot to be so eloquent. Feng Yuesheng's body trembled, and her peaks trembled. She was on the verge of going berserk. This should be the legendary devouring divine parrot, right? The great elder suddenly said. The devouring divine parrot was originally a rare species. Back then, one had appeared in the mythical plane, so most people had heard of its evil name. However, it hadn't appeared in the clear moon plane for many years. Even the great elder wasn't sure if this was the legendary divine bird. Oh, you have good eyesight. It's this divine bird. Your junior doesn't know what's good for her. She actually said that my master is a playboy who walks his bird. What does she take me for? She can insult my master, but she can never insult the divine bird's divinity. The divine bird said with dissatisfaction. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird coldly. The divine bird immediately changed its words. Of course, she can't insult my master. Insulting him is insulting this divine bird. What devouring divine parrot? It's just a parrot that talks. I'm going to kill it. Feng Yuesheng said angrily. Stop fooling around. The devouring divine parrot is a divine bird, a mascot. To be able to obtain it is a great opportunity. Feng, why aren't you apologizing to young Master Qin and the divine bird? The great elder pretended to be dignified and said. What? You want me to apologize to it? Feng Yuesheng didn't dare to believe the great elder's decision. Everyone was also surprised. They looked at Yi Qinghan with envy. The divine bird raised its head and puffed out its chest. It looked proudly at the sky, waiting for Feng Yuesheng's apology. Yi Qinghan didn't need her to apologize, nor did he want to offend her. He said, You're too polite. Those who don't know are innocent. Besides, this divine bird's mouth is a little cheap. It doesn't have any bad intentions. Please don't take it to heart. There's no need for you to be a good person. This bird must have learned it from you. Otherwise, how could it be so cheap? Feng Yuesheng said angrily. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and stared at Feng Yuesheng. He realized that this woman was very beautiful. Why didn't she think before she spoke? Forget it, forget it. Junior sister, you're also in the wrong in this matter. Don't hold on to it. Meng Xinghuan advised. Humph. In the third round of the assessment, you went easy on him and allowed him to enter the sect. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Feng Yuesheng stomped her foot and glared fiercely at Yi Qinghan before turning around and leaving. Meng Xinghuan nodded apologetically at Yi Qinghan and said, my junior sister's temper isn't too good. She has the temperament of a child. Fellow Taoist Qin, please don't take it to heart. For a dignified chief disciple of a generation to apologize, it was already not bad. At the very least, the atmosphere among the disciples of the great Tao Divine sect should be quite good. Yi Qinghan was still planning to stay in the great Tao Divine sect for a period of time. Furthermore, since the other party had taken the initiative to apologize, there was no need for him to maintain his attitude. He cupped his fists and returned the greeting, you're too polite. I didn't discipline my spirit pet well and angered fellow Taoist Feng. Please convey my apology. The great elder looked at Yi Qinghan's attitude and nodded. He said with satisfaction, Qin you have the spirit-devouring divine parrot. You don't have to participate in the second round of the assessment. Then what should we do? We're teammates with him. If he doesn't need to take the assessment, we don't need to either, right? At the critical moment, Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru were no longer stupid and quickly said. No need, no need. Neither of you need to take the assessment. The great elder waved his hand repeatedly. He really didn't want to argue with the two idiots. He said to Meng Xinghuan, bring the three of you to the outer sect to rest and wait for the third round of the assessment the day after tomorrow. The divine bird proudly said to Xiong Dahu and Xiong Eru, how is it? Following the boss is not wrong, right? We don't even need to take the second round of the assessment. Chapter 738. On the first day of the assessment, the Grand Elder announced the end of the assessment with great dissatisfaction. There were less than 100 powerhouses who managed to pass the first stage, even if they managed to last for the duration of a joss stick. Those who managed to last for 2 joss sticks were even rarer. There was not a single person who managed to last for an hour. Only Yi Qinghan and the 2 fools managed to keep up appearances. However, apart from Big Bear and Bramble, everyone knew that only Yi Qinghan was presentable. Yi Qinghan was rather curious as well. The Grand Great Path Divine sect should have been able to attract a few decent geniuses at the very least. Why was there not even one? It was too strange. After discreetly asking around, he found out that the Great Path Divine sect had been having a hard time recently. The Great Path Divine sect had suddenly found the second Great Path Boundary Stone, the Karma Great Path Boundary Stone. It had caused the other 2 sects and the kingdom to join forces against it. Therefore, the Great Path Divine sect was clearly at a disadvantage. In terms of true combat strength, the Great Path Divine sect was far ahead of the other sects and the Clear Moon Kingdom. This was because there were 2 half-step lords in the sect. Their abilities were extremely close to 9 Serenity Lords level. On the other hand, the other sects and kingdoms only had 1 half-step lord each. If they were to fight, the Great Path Divine sect would definitely perish. Due to the pressure, the Great Path Divine sect had no choice but to compromise. They sealed the Karma Great Path Boundary Stone so that no one could comprehend it for 1,000 years. The half-step lords from the other 2 sects and the kingdom were involved in the sealing. Therefore, the 3 organizations did not put too much pressure on them. However, by sealing off the Great Path Divine sect's foundation so that the sect would not be able to recruit true geniuses and elites for 1,000 years, they would naturally decline. Yi Qinghan fell silent for a while and prepared to break the sealed Karma Great Path Boundary Stone. A boundary stone was equivalent to a complete great path. Once the 6 paths, 6 laws, and 5 elemental origins were gathered, there would be a chance to repair the Chaos Heavenly Tao and bring back the Chaos Era. all planes would be reunited. When that happened, there would be a chance to become a true supreme god or even a creator god. The mystery of Karma Great Path Boundary Stone was sealed at the back mountain of the inner sect. If one wanted to get close to it, they would have to enter the inner sect first. Yi Qinghan thought to himself, I don't think it's possible to become an inner sect disciple. I'll have to meet the two grand elders. If I'm accepted as their disciple, not only will I be able to gain insight into the Grand Tao of Order, I'll also be able to approach the Grand Tao of Karma. The next day, the karmic luck assessment began. Yi Qinghan and big brother Xiong were exempted from the assessment and obtained full marks. However, the others were not so lucky. More than 100 people had wasted a day. More than half had died, and more than half had been eliminated. In the end, only 5 people could barely enter the third stage. On the third day, it was time to prepare for the Grand Tao of Order. Yi Qinghan was full of confidence. After all, he had also gained some insight into the Grand Tao of Order. It was just that he wasn't very proficient in it. Although he hadn't reached minor completion, it was still very easy for him to comprehend 10 offensive moves. A total of 8 people faced 8 stone steels. There was a diagram on each stone steel. Each diagram was formed from the profound mysteries of the Grand Tao of Order. Each diagram contained 10 offensive or defensive moves. These were the most basic entry-level moves. They weren't very powerful, but for those who had never gained insight into the Grand Tao, it was very difficult. It wasn't easy to comprehend even one move. If one wanted to enter the outer sect, they had to comprehend 3 moves. If one wanted to enter the inner sect, they had to comprehend at least 5 moves. You have 2 hours. Comprehend as much as you can. Begin. The Grand Elder looked at the 8 of them and placed all his hopes on Yi Qinghan. If he could pass the illusion formation assessment, there was no need to worry about his loyalty. With the divine bird by his side, there was no need to worry about his luck. If his perception of the Grand Tao was strong, such a disciple would definitely attract the attention of the 2 Grand Elders. All 8 of them sat cross-legged in front of their respective stone steels. It was obvious that Yi Qinghan's stone steel was more difficult to comprehend. It was a stone steel that only the outer sect disciples of the Great Path Divine Sect could comprehend. However, to Yi Qinghan, it was as easy as flowing water. He sat cross-legged on the ground and attached his divine consciousness to the stone steel. He wandered through each mystery and sensed the mysteries. An image automatically appeared in his sea of consciousness. He was cultivating the Grand Tao of Order attack method. The first move, the second move, the 7th move, in less than half an hour, he had comprehended all 10 moves. What Yi Qinghan wanted was earth-shattering speed. Only then could he attract the half-step lord's attention. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up slowly and looked at the Grand Elder. He clasped his fists and said, Master, I've comprehended all 10 moves. What? The Grand Elder looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. His entire body trembled, and he stood rooted to the spot as if he had been struck by lightning. Impossible! Feng Yuesheng and Meng Xinghuan exclaimed at the same time. They were very doubtful. Both of them were considered elite geniuses. In the entire Clear Moon realm, they could be ranked in the top 10. However, when they were comprehending the stone steel, they had only comprehended 8 moves after 2 whole hours. The Great Path Divine Sect had already personally stepped in. Yi Qinghan had comprehended all 10 moves within half an hour. Just how insane was his perception of the Great Path? First move, Inverted Galaxy. Yi Qinghan's eyes moved. The area within a 100-meter radius was controlled by his will. He pointed his finger into the void, and the waterfall at the side of the Great Path Divine Sect went against the heavens. The order was reorganized as if the Milky Way was inverted. Second move, Shifting Phantom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan ignored time and space. The order was tampered with and manipulated by humans. The world was filled with afterimages. Third move, the Great Elder was stunned. Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng were even more shocked. Yi Qinghan had evolved one move after another. His proficiency was even better than the outer sect disciples. He was even more powerful than some inner sect disciples. It had only been half an hour. Insane. Feng Yuesheng murmured. She didn't know how to describe Yi Qinghan. After 9 moves in a row, Yi Qinghan's face didn't turn red and he wasn't panting. His eyes flashed as he shouted in a deep voice, 10 moves into 1. Order is mine. Spatial door, open. Whoosh! The sky was pierced. It was like the 9 Serenities Lord piercing through the spatial door connecting the realm of beasts. However, the spatial door created by the 9 Serenities Lord was eternal. Yi Qinghan's spatial door was instantaneous. It could last for at most 3 breaths before disappearing. This is impossible. This is a unique move of our sect. It's impossible for you to have learned it before. Comprehending 10 moves within half an hour. This old man couldn't do it back then. The 2 martial uncles also used half an hour. The Great Elder's body trembled. He couldn't describe the excitement in his heart at this moment. Yi Qinghan gently waved his hand and the spatial door disappeared. The order in the surroundings began to be controlled by him. It seemed like he was right in front of them, but in fact, he was far away. The embryonic form of the order law is close to the small success stage. The Great Elder exclaimed. He hurriedly said to Meng Xinghuan, quickly go and inform the sect master and Grand Elder. Our sect has discovered a peerless genius. Country bumpkin, have you not seen the world? The parrot scuttled out and muttered disdainfully. In fact, it had already raised its head to the sky. It was as if the one who comprehended 10 moves of the order law wasn't Yi Qinghan, but himself. Chapter 739. The Great Path sect leader flew all the way to the test grounds. Looking at Yi Qinghan, then at the Great Elder and Feng Yuesheng, he knew that the news was true. Ordinary geniuses couldn't make Feng Yuesheng look like that. Quick, follow me to see the 2 Great Elders. Sect leader Dao Wuji said excitedly. With that, Dao Wuji dragged Yi Qinghan to the inner sect. The Great Elder took care of the aftermath. In order to keep the secret of the Great Path Divine sect accepting another genius, he had to keep the other 7 people here. Even if they didn't pass the test, they had to stay. However, they were forbidden from discussing what happened today. Actually, Xiong Dahu and the rest were also confused. They were just comprehending the order Great Tao. Who had the time to look at Yi Qinghan? It was just that 3 outer sect disciples and Meng Xinghuan saw it. With the Great Elder's order, no one dared to talk about it. The inner sect of the Great Path Divine sect was made up of 3 mountains. The spiritual energy was overwhelming. The 3 mountains were cut in half, but they were still 200 meters tall. The surroundings were filled with the mysteries of order. Standing at the foot of the mountain, it still felt distant. There was no obstruction, but it was difficult to move forward. In the middle was the Tao Enlightenment Peak. 2 white-haired elders were playing chess. Meng Xinghuan was bowing and reporting the news. He was shocked to hear that Qin Yu only used an incense's time to comprehend 10 moves from the order Great Tao stone tablet. He couldn't help but put down the chess piece in his hand. The 2 of them had terrifying strength. Any one of them could make the entire realm tremble 3 times with a stomp of their feet. The white-robed elder was called Wenzheng. The black-robed elder was called Li Sha. Whether it was in the sect or the entire realm, Wenzheng was the good guy, while Li Sha was the bad guy. When Li Sha was fierce, who wouldn't give him face? Come up. Wenzheng glanced at Dao Wuji and Yi Qinghan and said lightly. Yi Qinghan followed Dao Wuji all the way to the Tao Enlightenment Peak. He knew that his plan was halfway to success. As long as he got the approval of the two elders, it would be equivalent to comprehending two great Taos. As for the reincarnation great Tao, he just had to tell the nine remoteness master. At the peak of the Tao Enlightenment Peak, Tao Wuji bowed. "Senior uncle, I have brought him here." Tao Wuji said. "All right, you may leave. Qin Yu, stay behind." Wenjing gestured. The two old men were in high spirits. One had the demeanor of a transcendent being, while the other was incomparably cold and full of killing intent. Yi Qinghan straightened his back and looked straight into the eyes of the two elders. When they asked the question, the divine bird looked around as if it was looking for something. "What's your name? Can you tell me where you're really from?" Wenjing sat up straight. Looking at Yi Qinghan's temperament, he knew that he couldn't be from Qin town. "I'm Yi Qinghan from the mythological realm. The reason why I'm using a fake name is that I want to join the Great Path Holy Sect to cultivate the Great Path. Please forgive me if I offend you," Yi Qinghan replied bluntly. "The mythological plane. It's rare for such a small plane to produce such an elite. Who is your master?" Wenjing continued asking. "My master is the Nine Serenities Master." Yi Qinghan didn't lie. As long as the two old men wanted to investigate his identity, they could easily find out. There was no benefit in hiding it. Wenjing and Li Sha's eyes narrowed. They didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be the disciple of the Nine Serenities Master. The mythological plane might be small and insignificant to them, but the identity of the Nine Serenities Master was significant. "You're the disciple of the Nine Serenities Master. Can't he teach you? Why did you come to the Clear Moon Plane?" Li Sha asked coldly. "My master is only my master in name. However, I've been cultivating on my own. Recently, I've been stuck at the bottleneck of the great perfection of the high level and middle level. Therefore, I came out to travel and found out that the Great Path Holy Sect has the Great Path Occult that I need. Therefore, I wish to be your disciple. I hope that the two elders will agree." Yi Qinghan bowed and said. "You want to join the Great Path Holy Sect? Didn't you inquire about the situation of the Great Path Holy Sect before you came for the assessment?" Li Sha asked bluntly. "I did. Let's not talk about whether the other two holy sects have attacked. Even if they did, I'll stand firm and stand on the side of the Great Path Holy Sect as a way to repay the kindness of teaching me," Yi Qinghan said affirmatively. You can't control the situation. If you want to join the Great Path Holy Sect, bring 3 heads to me and I'll allow you to join the Great Path Holy Sect," Li Sha said calmly. "Who are the 3? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. "The first one is the chief disciple of the Void Spirit Holy Sect, Sword Spirit Su. His cultivation is at the beginner level of the high-level priest. His sword spirit returns to heaven can steal souls from thousands of miles away. He can kill experts of the same level. He's ranked 3rd among the younger generation in the Clear Moon Plane. The second one is the Holy Qilin King of the Holy Qilin Sect. He has the bloodline of a half-saint beast. He can go anywhere. His physical body can kill high-level priests and his blood can kill high-level priests. He's ranked 2nd and 3rd among the younger generation in the Clear Moon Plane. The Crown Prince of the Clear Moon Divine Kingdom, Qing Shenluo. His cultivation is unfathomable. Location. Yi Qinghan didn't ask for the reason and asked directly. Wenjing and Li Sha raised their eyebrows. They didn't expect Yi Qinghan to agree so readily. "You're not going to ask for the reason?" Li Sha asked with a frown. Yi Qinghan didn't play by the rules. "Those who block my path will not be charged with murder." Yi Qinghan replied domineeringly. Li Sha realized that he wasn't the only one who wanted to kill. Yi Qinghan's words matched his temper. He slammed the table and said loudly, "Good. They're now training in the ancient mystery plane. Bring their heads back and I'll personally teach you the Order Grand Tao and the Minor Tao of killing. Give me a map and their images. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and said. Li Sha threw out a jade talisman and 3 image stones. Yi Qinghan took the jade talisman and absorbed it into his sea of consciousness. He glanced at the 3 image stones and crushed them. Then, he picked up his saber and left. Wenjing frowned. He didn't like Yi Qinghan's murderous nature, but he also admired Yi Qinghan's Tao heart. However, he had to say, Senior Brotherly, it won't be good if he fails to kill those 3 people. I believe he can do it. How can someone that old bastard Nine Nether has his eyes on be simple? Li Sha said calmly. Yi Qinghan flew all the way. He didn't even return to his mansion. Instead, he rushed toward the ancient land. The most dangerous ancient mystery plane in the clear moon plane was there. It was very dangerous, but there were many treasures there. In particular, supreme treasures and divine medicines that were suitable for upper-rank gods. The deeper one went, the more there were. However, ancient beasts were everywhere. There were even half-step lord-level beasts there. Who would dare to set foot there if they weren't elites? The ancient mystery plane was vast and boundless. It seemed to be connected to other planes. They only knew the starting point but couldn't find the end. Even the 4 half-step lord-level gods of the clear moon plane had never left. It was clear how dangerous and vast the inside was. Divine aura lingered around this secret plane. It was extremely rich. The birds and beasts were extremely powerful. They could split mountains and uproot peaks. The vitality of the beasts was extremely terrifying. Even in the periphery, mid-rank gods would find it difficult to survive. Chapter 740. The Great Path was boundless, and the universe was endless. It took tens of thousands of years for a secret zone to be born. Divine Qi lingered around, and no one knew where it came from. It was filled with rule arcana and could repair mountains and rivers on its own. Unless a lord came in person, even a half-step lord could not destroy this place. Yi Qinghan arrived with the divine bird. He held frenzy in his hand and narrowed his eyes to see through the void. However, he could not see through the mountains and rivers. It was as difficult as ascending the heavens to find the powerhouses in front of him. The divine bird was unwilling to give up. It pursed its lips and said, "That old fart is obviously using you as a scapegoat. If you kill those 3, you'll probably offend the half-step lords of the 3 organizations. When that happens, you'll have to rely on the Great Path Holy Sect." Yi Qinghan swiped the air out of thin air, and the trio's information appeared before him. The 3 powerhouses were powerful. Their Taoist hearts were so firm that they could ignore the life and death of living creatures. They had once slaughtered an entire city, not even sparing babies. They were truly ruthless. Based on what they've done, it doesn't matter if I kill them. I have a deal with the Great Path Holy Sect. If I want the Great Path Arcana, I'll help him kill 3 people. Consider it a profit, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan charged into the depths without hesitation. He was like an agile monkey, kicking off cliffs and shooting out like a sword. Roar! An unknown ferocious beast's roar shook the mountains and rivers. The forest shook, the ferocious beast growled, and the bird soared into the sky. Screech! The mutated goshawk screeched furiously. Its sharp claws tore through the void, and it swooped down to grab Yi Qinghan. The god-slaying eagle in his body charged in the opposite direction. The colorful snake turned into a WIRM and soared into the sky, rolling toward the mutated goshawk. The 2 of them worked together and quickly suppressed the goshawk. Blood splattered across the river. Not even its bones were left behind. Yi Qinghan tapped his toes and landed on the god-slaying eagle's back. The colorful snake coiled around his waist, and he charged straight into the depths. Inside the secret realm, looking down from above, there were ferocious beasts everywhere. Huge flood dragons were entrenched like giant dragons, and giant tigers could tear apart giant trees that would take several people to wrap their arms around with one claw. Their vitality was much stronger than that of humans, and the creatures here were definitely invincible among their peers. They were much stronger than humans and the creatures in the outside world. Occasionally, one could see a group of middle-level priests going on adventures to kill ferocious beasts, but it was very dangerous. If they encountered a fifth-rank ferocious beast, there was no other way but to escape. Most of them were high god priests who had single-handedly slaughtered their way into the mystic realm. Experts who could come to the mystic realm to train were at least kings of the same level. Invincible experts could be seen everywhere. Many of them saw Yi Qinghan and could not help but be shocked. Those who dared to fly in the air like Yi Qinghan could be counted on one hand. More importantly, Yi Qinghan was only at the perfected middle level. Is this person courting death? If you dare to fly in the air, aren't you just becoming a target for the ferocious beasts? How unfamiliar. He's probably a rising genius from some big prefecture. He's just a little reckless. The powerhouses below shook their heads in disgust. Their voices were not loud, but they did not try to hide it either. When Yi Qinghan swept across the sky, he could hear them loud and clear. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan did not care what these people were saying. He made the god-slaying eagle speed up and charge toward the depths of the secret realm. The mystic realm was divided into the periphery, the middle, and the interior. 50,000 miles from the human settlement to the depths was the periphery. After 50,000 miles, another 50,000 miles was the middle. The three powerhouses were in the middle. Only the interior of the mystic realm was in the middle. Unless the three of them worked together, they would not dare to set foot there. The periphery was suitable for middle-level priests and some slightly weaker upper-level priests to train. Occasionally, there would be lower-level priests who were more powerful, but most of them were itinerant cultivators. If they wanted to improve, there was no other way but to take risks. When they reached the middle, their cultivation level would be at least mid-level upper-level priests. Moreover, their combat strength would have to be at the level of a king. As long as they did not encounter an unparalleled genius, they would be invincible. Logically speaking, the three powerhouses should be in the middle. Yi Qinghan's target was the middle, so he did not stop at the periphery. Once powerful ferocious beasts attacked, he killed them all. Along the way, he killed hundreds of ferocious beasts. The vigorous qi and blood of the ferocious beasts were devoured by the start-whining vine and the others, causing the cultivation of his spiritual pets to increase significantly. This place seemed to be a paradise for Pai Xiu. With one dive, it could devour a huge ferocious beast. Moreover, its qi and blood were very vigorous. It had no intention of hunting ordinary ferocious beasts at all. The divine bird went berserk. They found a large number of divine medicine resources, countless divine iron, and several mineral veins. However, Yi Qinghan did not have the time to excavate them. Unless they were extremely valuable materials above grade 15, he would not even look at them. When you cultivate to upper-level priests, you'll occupy this place, the divine bird suggested seriously. Yi Qinghan shrugged. It would probably be very difficult to cross planes and occupy the wild ancient mystery dimension. At most, he could only lead the inner sect powerhouses and take away a portion of the resources here. This place is already close to the middle. Let's go down and scout. Perhaps we can find out the location of those three. Yi Qinghan put away the god-slaying eagle and the multicolored snake. He descended outside a valley. From above, he could see that there seemed to be a few teams stationed in the valley. He then stepped in. Once he entered the valley, he discovered that it was actually a vast plain. There were mountains, rivers, and lakes. Green willows were enchanting, and divine grass was everywhere. It made one feel refreshed. There were 6 small teams with more than 30 people. They were all resting. Most of them were upper-level priests. There were also 4 or 5 mid-level perfected deities. These mid-level perfected deities were mostly doing odd jobs and were responsible for guarding. Once a battle broke out, it was very likely that they would be cannon fodder. The 4 female cultivators were all extremely powerful. They were all low-level upper-level. The moment Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley, the 6 small teams immediately became alert. A mid-level priest berated, "Who allowed you to come in? Get out. This is private territory." 2 small teams were the first to make trouble. They seemed to be very resistant to outsiders. Their voices woke up the high-level priests. They stood up one after another. When they realized that it was actually a mid-level perfected deity, they did not take it seriously. They coldly glanced at him with obvious warning. Only one small team was not hostile. There were 4 young men. They were all high-level deities. One of them was a mid-level upper-level deity, while the other 3 were low-level deities. The last young woman was a mid-level perfected deity. She had a voluptuous figure, and her jade peaks were on the verge of popping out. The 4 high-level deities actually treated her as the center. Although they were not hostile to Yi Qinghan, they separated him from the woman's line of sight. The woman pushed the 2 people in front of her aside and looked directly at Yi Qinghan. Her wise eyes shone brightly. She realized that Yi Qinghan was not ordinary. A mid-level perfected deity could not barge into the border of the middle region alone unless he was really powerful. "I am Hua Xinyang. Everyone gives me face and calls me Xinyang. May I know who you are? Why haven't I seen you before?" The voluptuous woman cupped her fists and asked. Yi Qinghan looked at Hua Xinyang. He knew that she was the backbone of this small team. He did not look down on her because of her low cultivation. He cupped his fists and replied, "I am Yi Qinghan. I am just a nameless junior. I am here to inquire about the whereabouts of a few people. If you know, I will pay you 500 supreme-grade divine crystals as a reward." 500 supreme-grade divine crystals. Hua Xinyang and the others narrowed their eyes. They just realized that Yi Qinghan was a rich man. He paid them 500 supreme-grade divine crystals just to inquire about some information. They risked their lives to come here and earn 500 supreme-grade divine crystals. The experts of the other small teams revealed unfriendly gazes. Their greed was self-evident. Chapter 741. Most of the 6 teams were staring at Yi Qinghan with greedy eyes. Although Yi Qinghan was confident that he could protect himself, he had neglected the fact that people were not as smart as they used to be. Hua Xinyang did not show any greed. She would never believe that a middle god priest would not be capable enough to come here alone. "Who are you looking for?" Hua Xinyang asked. "Jian Lingshu, Holy Qilin King, and Qing Shenluo." Yi Qinghan looked straight at Hua Xinyang and said. At this moment, Hua Xinyang wasn't the only one who gasped. Everyone else gasped as well as they stared at Yi Qinghan. They realized that he didn't seem surprised at all. He said the names of the 3 people as if he was talking about an ordinary person. "Why? Why are you looking for them?" Hua Xinyang asked in surprise. "It's my personal business. It's best that you don't ask," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "They are in the middle of the secret territory. As far as I know, Lord Jian Lingshu seems to have gone towards the southwest. Holy Qilin King and Holy Sun are in the west. As for Prince Qing Shenluo, no one knows his exact location." No matter how arrogant Hua Xinyang was, her eyes were filled with respect when she talked about the 3. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and 500 pieces of top-grade god crystals appeared. He gave them to Hua Xinyang and turned to walk towards the other side of the valley. Hua Xinyang did not expect Yi Qinghan to give her 500 pieces of top-grade god crystals just to find out information. She had a bad feeling when she saw Yi Qinghan walking towards the other side. Stop right there. 4 to 5 young men blocked Yi Qinghan's path. Yi Qinghan gripped the long saber in his hand and said coldly, "Get out of my way. Brat, do you know who you are talking to?" A high god priest said coldly. "It's just a dog. Why are you barking? This divine bird is proficient in all kinds of beast languages, but I don't know how to bark. If you have nothing to do, get out of my way. Haven't you heard of the saying, a good dog doesn't block the way?" The divine bird said rudely. "You are courting death. Kill." The young man waved his hand, but before he could finish his sentence, the young man was already dead. Whoosh! A white light flashed by and blinded everyone. Yi Qinghan's saber tore through the firmament and slashed across the necks of 5 people in the blink of an eye. The order of these experts' flesh was distorted, and it was impossible for them to recover. His body died on the spot. Screech! Hum! Roar! The star-twining vine, the god-slaying eagle, the multicolored snake, and the Pai Xiu rushed out at the same time and directly devoured the 5 corpses. Even the godheads did not have time to escape. There was not a single drop of blood, nor a single bone. These divine beasts were existences that would eat a person without spitting out the bones. Yi Qinghan raised his hand and brought his blade down. He didn't even bother to say anything unnecessary. This group of people had stopped him because they wanted the divine essences. He didn't have a good temper when it came to people like this. An enemy was an enemy. The few female cultivators screamed in fright at Yi Qinghan's cold-bloodedness and retreated. Whoosh! The remaining dozen or so experts stood up and joined forces to block Yi Qinghan's path. However, there was vigilance in their eyes. Yi Qinghan had killed 5 high-rank god priests with a single slash. This was not something an ordinary person could do. "I'll give you 3 breaths time to consider. Either get lost or die." Yi Qinghan said coldly. "Wait. Everyone, don't be rash. Don't kill each other in this secret territory." Hua Xinyang was also stunned by Yi Qinghan's actions. He had killed 5 high-rank god priests in one move. Did he dare to go against everyone in the valley alone? "You are too arrogant. You killed 5 people in one move. You are clearly looking down on us." The strongest young man stepped forward with a sharp sword in his hand. He looked straight at Yi Qinghan. He did not give Hua Xinyang any face, nor did he care about Yi Qinghan's strength. "They are in my way. You still have 2 breaths time." Yi Qinghan stared emotionlessly at the young man. His towering will pressed down on the young man. The young man's pupils shrank. He could not help but take a step back. He had never seen such eyes before. They were emotionless and confident to the extreme. It was as if everyone in the world were ants. "Li Tianyi, calm down. Let him go," Hua Xinyang said in a deep voice. "You think I killed them for nothing? 2 of my teammates are dead." Li Tianyi was not willing to accept this. If he was scared off by a complete middle god brat, how could he lead the team in the future? "Then you will die with your teammates." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan moved. His body was as fast as lightning as he kicked Li Tianyi's temple. Boom! Crack! Li Tianyi only had time to raise his hand to block. However, his arm was as weak as rotten wood in front of Yi Qinghan's iron leg. It broke on the spot. A vast force kicked Li Tianyi dozens of meters away. Blood spurted out from his mouth. Hum! Whoosh! The sword in Li Tianyi's hand fell from Yi Qinghan's kick. The sword automatically unsheathed itself. Yi Qinghan lifted his foot and kicked the sword hilt. The sharp sword pierced through the void and shot into Li Tianyi's head. Li Tianyi's body was shot into the side of the valley. An expert of a generation could not even withstand a single blow. He was nailed to the mountain and his godhead was pierced by the sword. Hua Xinyang's hands and feet were cold. She wanted to protect Li Tianyi, but Li Tianyi did not know what was good for him. The others were dumbfounded. Li Tianyi was the strongest in the group, but he could not withstand a single blow. Yi Qinghan's speed was too fast. He was so fast that he could ignore the order in front of him. He could even set the order himself. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The others did not dare to stop him. They quickly moved away. Yi Qinghan did not look sideways. After killing 6 people, he stepped out of the valley and disappeared from everyone's sight. Hua Xinyang was embarrassed. Looking at the pale faces of the others, she sighed helplessly. There were too many fools. Avoid him when you see him in the future. Hua Xinyang said to her teammates. Why? He is just a middle grade fulfillment cultivator. His speed is indeed fast. I think the 2 of us can kill him together. A young man in Hua Xinyang's team said disdainfully. Idiot. If he is an ordinary great fulfillment cultivator, do you think he can run from the outer region to here? If he is really a middle great fulfillment cultivator, do you think he would dare to look for the 3 strongest experts of the younger generation in the Clear Moon Plain? Hua Xinyang gritted her teeth. Why couldn't others see such obvious things? Everyone was enlightened. No wonder everyone called Hua Xinyang the think tank. Even the superior god priests had to call her Xinyang. This was the difference. Yi Qinghan was not interested in listening to what they were saying. After finding the whereabouts of Jian Lingxiu and the Holy Qilin King, he rushed to the southwest. The southwest was close to the inner region of the secret territory. There were ferocious beasts everywhere. There were divine herbs flying in the sky. There were no ordinary beasts, not even birds. All of them were powerful ancient beasts. Their vitality was so strong that they could kill a lower god priest. A young man with 3 sharp swords on his back could kill ferocious beasts from 100 miles away. He was extremely powerful. Chapter 742. Tens of thousands of miles away, Jian Lingxiu carried 3 huge swords on his back and used the sword manipulation technique. His sword spirit returns to heaven had reached the pinnacle of perfection, killing people without leaving a trace. Jian Lingxiu's understanding was very clear. Collecting the demon cores of powerful ferocious beasts, which contained a large amount of energy, would fetch a high price in the outside world. It was much more convenient than searching for treasures, and the profits were dozens of times more than others. Jian Lingxiu consumed a large amount of divine power and blood essence to eat the flesh of these ferocious beasts. His cultivation improved tremendously. No wonder he could become one of the top 3 experts among the younger generation. I have been training for 3 years. This time, I will gather all the resources. I must reach the peak of the upper deity realm and defeat Holy Qilin King and Qing Shenluo. Jian Lingxiu felt the countless demonic cores and elixirs in his interspatial ring. He took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, the elixir of the medicine god Valley Sect's master apothecary, I have to get it this time. If you don't make it for me, I will slaughter your entire sect. Jian Lingxiu looked up and saw the ferocious beasts in the depths getting stronger and more numerous. Finally, he stopped moving forward and turned to rush to the periphery. Yi Qinghan rushed from the periphery to the center, while Jian Lingxiu rushed from the center to the periphery. Their paths were similar, so it was only a matter of time before they collided. Roar! The ferocious beasts roared furiously, echoing in the deep mountains. Night fell, and all the cultivators started to look for caves to form a defense. They would fight again in the day. Pairs of light green eyes could steal one's soul. At night, thousands of beasts roared together. As they ran, many ferocious beasts devoured each other. They were very sensitive to human blood essence. Many adventurers died tragically in the mouths of the ferocious beasts. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to be careful. It was hard to count the number of vicious beasts. Tens of thousands of unknown vicious beasts and birds danced across the mountains and rivers. If he were to get caught in the middle, let alone Yi Qinghan, even the entire inner sect would be sent to their deaths. Rustle. Now, he could only rely on his footsteps. He restrained his aura and put away his berserk gravity. The Shifang seal was in his hand, and the god-breaking boxing glove was activated. He kept flashing in the forest, running along the trees. The divine bird was furious. He chose to run instead of resting. He was simply courting death. Boom! A gigantic flood dragon swung its tail with the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. The shockwave tore apart trees and sent a brown bear flying several thousand meters before crashing right in front of Yi Qinghan. The brown bear crawled up in a sorry state and roared angrily. Despite its thick skin, it was not injured at all. If other ferocious beasts were hit, this tail would have directly smashed them into meat paste. This mutated brown bear was 30 feet tall. When it stood up, it was like a small mountain. Just its skin alone was the best material for making high-grade defensive divine artifacts. Yi Qinghan quietly retreated. If it were any other time, he would definitely take advantage of the situation to attack and take away the bearskin and Yao core. However, he couldn't do that now. Once he was exposed, he would be finished. Whoosh! The flood dragon attacked again. Its body was more than 200 meters long, even bigger than an ordinary dragon. It was like an ancient dragon with boundless strength. It opened its fangs and fiercely bit the brown bear's neck. Its body curled up and tightened around the brown bear. No matter how much strength the brown bear exerted, it was unable to shake the flood dragon. Roar! The mutated brown bear, known as the son of the earth, suddenly bounced up, rushing into the sky, crashing into a mountain peak. Boom! The mountain peak collapsed. The mutated brown bear and the flood dragon crazily rolled around, constantly crashing into each other. The crazy speed caused the impact to increase tenfold or even hundredfold. Even a tree branch could cut through the flood dragon's skin, not to mention those sharp rocks. Roar! The flood dragon screamed and let go of the mutated brown bear. Its tail wrapped around a mountain peak. The brown bear had escaped and was immediately enraged. It leaped up and smashed towards the flood dragon like a cannonball. Boom! The brown bear's forelimbs turned into fists and directly smashed the mountain peak that the flood dragon was entrenched in. How could the flood dragon withstand the brown bear's strength? It immediately screamed and fell off the cliff. The two mutated beasts fought crazily. Within 100 miles, no ferocious beasts dared to interfere. Yi Qinghan quietly followed behind, watching them kill each other. He looked for an opportunity to steal the demonic nuclei and flesh of the flood dragon and the brown bear. The flood dragon's blood, in particular, was definitely a great tonic for Yi Qinghan. If he soaked in its blood, it was very likely that he would be able to advance his cultivation. These two ferocious beasts were considered the cream of the crop among the fifth-grade beasts. After killing for an entire night, the area within 1,000 miles was a mess. The mysteries of the Great Tao circulated quickly, and the destroyed mountains and rivers were almost completely restored. This was the benefit of the arcane realm. The night was as dark as ink, and the darkness before dawn was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers. The two mutated beasts had almost reached the end of their rope and were about to retreat. At this moment, Yi Qinghan made his move. He mobilized the seal of 10 directions to suppress the flood dragon and waved his iron fist towards the brown bear's head. The god-breaking gloves erupted with a divine radiance. It was as if a force that could tear time and space apart could be felt from 1,000 miles away. The mutated brown bear was shocked. It didn't have time to turn around and could only cover its head with its forelimbs, trying to block Yi Qinghan's attack with its forelimbs. Boom! Yi Qinghan's punch was enough to shatter mountains and crack the earth. The god-breaking gloves increased Yi Qinghan's strength by dozens of times. The huge brown bear's body was thrown into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan leapt up again and growled, 5 elements dragon fists. Hum! 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 The 5 true dragons gathered and merged into one, transforming into a fist shadow that blasted towards the brown bear. The brown bear was already exhausted. There was no way it could withstand Yi Qinghan's attack. The fist landed squarely on the bear's head. The bear's head didn't have the strongest defense, so it was immediately punched open. Blood splattered everywhere, and its body toppled to the side. Roar! The brown bear was furious. It waved its right limb and smashed towards Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan's left fist smashed into the brown bear's right limb. Yi Qinghan's body was sent flying, but the brown bear's falling speed increased, and it slammed into the ground, causing Yi Qinghan to feel dizzy. Bang! Yi Qinghan crashed into the mountain and quickly bounced back. Looking at the stunned brown bear, he ignored his injuries and mobilized his soul. With a roar, he launched a soul attack towards the brown bear's soul. The brown bear had a strong physical body, but its soul was extremely weak. Now that it had been punched by Yi Qinghan and crashed to the ground, its soul was extremely weak. After receiving another attack from Yi Qinghan, it fainted on the spot. At this moment, the python dragon had been magnified countless times by the 10-direction seal. It was forcefully suppressed inside a cliff. It struggled frantically, but it couldn't escape. The 10-direction seal seemed to have imprisoned the space below, turning it into a prison. If it wasn't injured, the 10-direction seal might not have been able to suppress it. Unfortunately, it was exhausted now. In the end, it could only benefit Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan forcefully broke open the brown bear's head and removed its demon core. He separated its flesh and skin separately and placed them in his universe ring. Then, he came to the cliff and looked at the giant python dragon with excitement. Whether the multicolored snake, the god-slaying eagle, and himself could advance all depended on this ancient python dragon. The python dragon discovered Yi Qinghan. Its eyes widened and it looked at Yi Qinghan with resentment. It wished it could open its fangs and swallow him whole. Chapter 743. The sky gradually brightened, and the powerful beasts returned to their nests. Only the small beasts that had not eaten their fill were roaming outside. Yi Qinghan killed the flood dragon, took its inner core, and poured its vigorous blood into the stone trough he had just created. Then, he jumped in. The flood dragon's blood was not only vigorous, but it also contained a vast amount of energy. Its powerful corrosiveness was not inferior to that of ordinary dragons. Yi Qinghan took off his shirt and sat cross-legged. He activated his divine power to protect his body and actively absorbed the energy. The vast vitality was gradually absorbed by him. The multicolored snake followed Yi Qinghan and swam in the huge stone trough. The star-twining vine, Pai Xiu, god-slaying eagle, and fire crow devoured the flood dragon's flesh. Such a huge body was enough for them to eat. As time passed, Yi Qinghan's cultivation continued to rise. His body became stronger, and his dragon blood became purer. His dragon's aura was vast and mighty, and other beasts did not dare to approach him. Yi Qinghan began to condense all the godhoods in his body and promoted them to the middle level of great perfection. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, 5 elements godhoods, space godhoods, thunder godhoods. The flood dragon's blood gradually faded, and there was not much energy left. There was only some light red liquid left. The multicolored snake unwillingly rushed toward the flood dragon's flesh and took the last piece of the pie. Yi Qinghan's temperament became even more captivating. He was infinitely close to becoming a superior god. Unfortunately, he was still stuck at this point and could not advance even an inch. There was a gap between becoming a superior god and reaching great perfection. So many people in the inner sect broke through at the same time. It was not that they were more talented than Yi Qinghan, but that they specialized in a secret technique and only had one godhood. The amount of divine power they could store was limited. Even if they broke through to become a superior god, it would be difficult for them to compete with someone like Yi Qinghan who had more than 10 godhoods. Yi Qinghan could exhaust them to death just by using his divine power. Yi Qinghan's mastery of the 5 elements had reached the point of perfection, allowing him to launch powerful attacks at will. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and put on his shirt. He was elegant like a dragon among men, and his height was even taller. Whoosh! After Berserk was summoned, Yi Qinghan dug out the primal chaos divine source and placed the mutated brown bear's demon core inside. After another 2 hours of refinement, Berserk was upgraded to a high-tier divine artifact. Divine light shone brightly, and with a light tremble, the space around it shattered. Swish! Swish! Yi Qinghan danced crazily. It was extremely easy to use. He stabbed the blade into the mountain and saw that only the skeleton of the python dragon was left. He could not help but smile bitterly. He did not expect that the Pai Xiu would be picky about its food. In the past, it would swallow everything. The Pai Xiu had eaten the flesh of the python flood dragon and the mutated brown bear, allowing its blood and energy to recover. Its powerful aura was enough to crush a high god, but it treated Yi Qinghan extremely well. It was even very obedient in front of Yi Qinghan. It transformed into a small lion with golden fur all over its body, looking majestic. Even the star-twining vine and the god-slaying eagle had to tremble thrice when they saw it. Yi Qinghan looked at the Pai Xiu and knew that it was because of the giant dragon bloodline in his body that it was so obedient. Otherwise, it would have eaten him long ago. Let's go. Yi Qinghan held Berserk in his hand. The Pai Xiu followed beside him and continued forward. At this moment, Jian Lingxiu was also rushing out. 2 powerful auras were rapidly approaching. They were 30,000 miles apart. After 1 hour, they were only 20,000 miles apart. After 2 hours, they were only a few thousand miles apart. In the depths of the secret realm, one could not sense too far away. The 2 of them did not know at all and were still rushing forward. Broken Cliff Valley. The 2 mountains on both sides pierced through the clouds. The valley below was about 100 meters wide and surrounded by sand and stone forests. The stone forests were like swords that stood tall. A gust of wind blew past and echoed in the stone caves, giving out eerie sounds. Therefore, this place was also known as the Ghost Stone Forest. The sky was bright. Yi Qinghan came to the Ghost Stone Forest with the colorful snake around his waist and Berserk in his hand. The Pai Xiu was jumping around happily. Wait, there is a powerful warrior approaching. I don't know if it is Jian Lingxiu. His sword intent is very strong. The divine bird looked up at the other side of the Ghost Stone Forest and said in a serious voice. Yi Qinghan looked at the broken cliff. It was suitable for blocking. He extended his divine senses and found a powerful sword aura that was filled with killing intent and ruthlessness. Jian Lingxiu suddenly stopped. He also felt that there was a powerful warrior on the other side of the Ghost Stone Forest. He revealed a cold smile. He formed a seal with both hands and unsheathed his sword. 3 swords flew out at the same time. Sword spirit returns to heaven. Xiu xiu xiu. 3 streaks of sword light pierced through the clouds. The sword aura swept through some stone trees and stone chips flew everywhere. The divine swords were like lightning. They did not even ask who Yi Qinghan was and were about to suppress him directly. Hiss, 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 the sound of space shattering could be heard. The 3 streaks of sword light flashed in front of Yi Qinghan's eyes. 1 sword went for the top, 1 for the dantian, and 1 for the lower body. The momentum was terrifying. Boom! Yi Qinghan slashed the space in front of him and slashed at the divine swords. Boom! The three swords suddenly exerted force together and formed the shape of a letter. Yi Qinghan could block one sword, but not two. Even if he could block the second sword, it would be difficult for him to block the third. Boom! Berserk struck the third sword. The body of the sword was almost shattered by Yi Qinghan. Jian Lingshu, who was outside the ghost stone forest, trembled and frowned. He did not expect that Yi Qinghan's attack could affect the divine senses in the sword. Swoosh! The seal of 10 directions in Yi Qinghan's body suddenly jumped out and blocked the second sword. His left hand grabbed the third sword. Thud, 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 Jian Lingshu's attack was extremely powerful. It forced Yi Qinghan to fly back dozens of meters. His footprints broke the mountain rocks. However, he caught the third sword. He clenched his hand tightly. The god-breaking gloves shone brightly. The divine sword screamed under the pressure and wanted to break free. The divine sword trembled slightly. The space also trembled. However, it could not shake Yi Qinghan's will. Yi Qinghan activated the soul suppression pearl. Together with his soul, he directly wiped out the divine senses in the third sword. Puff! Jian Lingshu spat out a mouthful of blood. His soul was injured. His face was pale. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He waved his hand and the other two swords returned. He held the two swords in his hands and stepped towards the Nirvana realm. Yi Qinghan casually put away the divine swords. He held the berserk gloves and walked towards the depths. The divine bird hid in Yi Qinghan's body. It could feel that Jian Lingshu was really powerful. Even if he was weaker than Li Feng, he would not be much weaker. Once it was a battle of life and death, only the heavens would know who would live and who would die. Very powerful. Good luck. The divine bird reminded. Yi Qinghan walked towards the center with determination. Step by step, the Pai Xiu followed closely behind. After 3 breaths, the two of them looked at each other in the center. Their eyes were filled with sparks. Jian Lingshu's pupils shrank. His murderous intent became even stronger. This was because he saw a medium god priest block his sword spirit returns to the heavens and take away a divine sword. Give me back my sword. Jian Lingshu said coldly. Jian Lingshu? Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Lingshu and asked calmly. Yes. You dare to take my sword? Do you want to die? Jian Lingshu asked coldly. I'm here to take your life. I don't want your sword. I just want your head. Yi Qinghan's aura burst forth. His dragon blood boiled. The berserk gloves shot towards the sky. He pointed his long blade and pressed towards Jian Lingshu with the power of heaven and earth. Chapter 744. The long saber can break the soul and stabilize the world. Jian Lingshu frowned. He didn't expect the other party to come for him. It wasn't a coincidence. You, a perfected middle god priest. Even the holy Qilin king and Qing Shenluo don't dare to say they can kill me. Ignorant kid, who asked you to come here to die? Jian Lingshu asked coldly. I came here for the 3 cities that you slaughtered. Look up at the sky and see who will be spared. After Yi Qinghan finished his sentence, his body was like a dragon. He stomped on the ground and slashed at Jian Lingshu with his saber. Hua! The saber radiance cut down a stone tree. The mountain rocks turned into dust and the force spread in all directions. Boom! Jian Lingshu controlled the sword with his left hand and attacked Yi Qinghan's body. He raised the sword with his right hand and slashed at Zhong Quan. He was extremely fast and clashed with Yi Qinghan in the blink of an eye. Speed and power were displayed on both of them. They fought to the limit. Bang! As the two clashed, they exchanged hundreds of moves. Their bodies flew backward and destroyed the ghost stone forest. Everything within a 100-mile radius was flattened. Jian Lingxiu stomped on the ground and retreated a few hundred meters. Only then did he get serious. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be able to fight on par with him. Every strike from Yi Qinghan tore the web between his thumb and forefinger. Yi Qinghan's eyes were calm. He took a deep breath and activated the 10 godhoods in his body. His god power was no less than a superior god priest. Swish! Yi Qinghan disappeared. The space moved slightly and he disappeared without a trace. Jian Lingxiu was shocked. It was difficult for even a superior god priest to comprehend space to such an extent. Swish! 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 Dozens of divine swords appeared on Jian Lingxiu's back. He formed a seal with both hands and shouted, "Sword spirit return to heaven. Unsheath and 10,000 swords shoot." One sword turned into 1,000, 1,000 swords turned into 10,000, and 10,000 swords returned to their origin. They surrounded the entire ghost stone forest. Swish! 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 Jian Lingxiu's sword qi exploded and protected the surroundings. Nobody could get close to him. 5 elements dragon, fight! A low and deep voice resounded like a sudden clap of thunder, resounding through the clouds with soaring battle intent. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan appeared behind Jian Lingxiu and slashed out. The 5 elements turned into dragons and then exploded, turning into countless divine sabers. Each of the sabers was violent and had unparalleled combat power. The 5 elements' blade was unstoppable. It shattered the sword qi and Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. Boom! It was too fast. It was so fast that no one could react. Yi Qinghan, who was just at the edge of the sky, entered the ghost stone forest in the blink of an eye. He struck Jian Lingxiu's head with his saber. The sword spirit raised his sword in the air to block, withstanding the terrifying force. The mountain rocks under his feet were even more fragile than rotten wood, and his body was directly smashed into the ground. The 5 elements are for me to use. Yi Qinghan's corporeal body was sent flying into the void before descending from the sky. His saber pierced through the mountain rocks as he charged into the ground. Jian Lingxiu's divine body exploded, and divine blood spilled everywhere. His anger overflowed into the heavens. 10,000 swords were unsheathed, and they crushed the earth and mountain rocks as they rushed out from the ground. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan rushed out from the ground, fighting against the heavens and the earth. He was extremely powerful and charged towards Jian Lingxiu once again. Jian Lingxiu's power was not as strong as Yi Qinghan's, so he finally stopped resisting. He flew above the secret realm on his sword, trying to distract Yi Qinghan's vision and find a chance to kill this strong opponent. He had never thought of leaving. His desire to kill Yi Qinghan grew stronger. He did not dare to let Yi Qinghan become a high-level god. Otherwise, he would no longer be one of the top 3 experts in front of him. Yi Qinghan's sharpness was enough to overshadow everyone. Split open the sky. He attacked crazily, and all the laws in the world submitted to him. The saber radiance shot out in all directions, and the void was broken. It was an indiscriminate slaughter. Explode! The saber radiance, accompanied by divine power, searched for the sword qi and the sword body. They directly entangled and exploded. The aftershock of the 10,000 swords explosion was vast and mighty. The aura rushed out for 10,000 miles, frightening all the beasts in the secret realm. No matter how strong the beasts were, they did not know how to work together and fled on their own. Cough cough. Jian Lingxiu's soul was severely injured again. There was only one sword left in his hand. The other swords had all perished together with the saber radiance. Who are you? There is no one like you in the clear moon plain. Jian Lingshu flew backward and looked at Yi Qinghan cautiously. He questioned sternly. A dead man does not need to know my name. Yi Qinghan raised his saber and rushed towards Jian Lingshu. His strength was stronger and faster each time, as if his divine power was limitless. Jian Lingshu did not have so many divinities, nor did he have so much divine power for him to use. After fighting for 6 hours, Yi Qinghan became braver and braver. However, he was almost exhausted. Yi Qinghan did not give him a chance to recover, causing his blood to flow faster and faster. Boom! Yi Qinghan swung his saber again and chopped down his last sword. The sword crashed into the mountain. Yi Qinghan swung his saber to suppress the sharp sword. He clenched his fist and rushed towards Jian Lingshu. Boom! The 15th grade godly fire was attached to the gloves. It broke through the void and killed Jian Lingshu mercilessly. Without his sword and divine power, Jian Lingshu was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Even his speed was suppressed. He could only clench his fist and fight back. Bang! Jian Lingshu only realized how stupid he was after he clashed with Yi Qinghan's fist. His entire right arm was smashed and his bones were broken. His body was smashed to the side of the cliff like a cannonball. Yi Qinghan was merciless. Since he had already made up his mind to kill, there was no need for him to waste any more words. He kicked Jian Lingshu in the air. Before Jian Lingshu could hit the cliff, he was kicked in the chest. Jian Lingshu coughed out blood and bent his body. He hit the cliff and fell heavily to the ground. Stop! Who paid you to kill me? I will pay double. Jian Lingshu knelt on one knee. He wanted to struggle, but he had no more divine power. He could only stall for time. You can't afford the price he paid. Die peacefully. The Holy Qilin King and Qing Shenluo will be with you soon. You won't be lonely on the way. Yi Qinghan was powerful. He lifted his leg and kicked Jian Lingshu's chest, pressing him to the ground. Jian Lingshu's organs were crushed by Yi Qinghan. His eyes were filled with shock. He stared at Yi Qinghan. His fingertips trembled. He pointed at Yi Qinghan and asked hoarsely, "You still want to kill them?" Yi Qinghan nodded. He wanted Jian Lingshu to know why he died. Jian Lingshu was indeed powerful. He had fought with Jian Lingshu for more than 10 hours. If it wasn't for the fact that Jian Lingshu had the divine source of chaos to provide him with endless power, he wouldn't have been able to kill Jian Lingshu. Boom! Jian Lingshu grinned bitterly. He didn't even want to run away with the godhead because he knew he had no chance. He was ready to die. His big hand dropped down and kicked up clouds of dust. The whole ghost stone forest was flattened and turned into a huge plain. This battle was really intense. Yi Qinghan didn't have it easy either. His 5th rank protective armor had been cut open by Jian Lingshu. It was covered in blood and the order had changed. He couldn't even repair it quickly. Hua! Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed Zhong Kuang, chopping off Jian Lingshu's neck. He waved his hand and destroyed all of Jian Lingshu's life force. He forcefully destroyed the soul in Jian Lingshu's head and put it into his interspatial ring. Jian Lingshu's death and his life tablet in the divine sect broke. The divine sect was in an uproar. The divine sect's grand elder came out of seclusion and sent elites to the ancient mystery dimension to investigate the cause of his death. Once the divine sect took action, the other forces would definitely know. Li Sha and Wenjing didn't expect Yi Qinghan to get one so quickly. They looked at each other in shock. Chapter 745. In just half a day, the entire secret territory was stirred up. Most of the people knew that Sword Lingshu had died in the secret territory. Hua Xinyang was stunned. She knew that she was in big trouble. This matter would definitely be traced back to her. She would become a sacrifice and even her teammates would be implicated. He is looking for those 3 people. Is he going to kill all of them? He is just a complete middle god. How could he kill Sword Lingshu? Hua Xinyang leaned on a mountain rock. Her limbs were weak. The people around her were still resting together, but they didn't think about what would happen next. They were all talking about Sword Lingshu's death. Finally, someone connected Sword Lingshu's death with Yi Qinghan. Do you think Sword Lingshu was killed by that person the day before yesterday? A superior god priest said softly. We need Xinyang's analysis. She knows everything. A young man in Xinyang's team said proudly. Xinyang was awakened. Her face was pale. She murmured, how could it be him? It must be a coincidence. Sword Lingshu is known as one of the top 3 experts among the younger generation. He has been in the secret territory for so many times and nothing happened to him. How could that person die after one night? This is too much of a coincidence. Everyone did not believe it. Hua Xinyang's chest heaved up and down. She swallowed her saliva. She knew that she was really done for this time. Unless she killed all these people, the Void Spirit sect would not know that she was the one who told Yi Qinghan about Sword Lingshu's whereabouts. However, she was a woman and a medium god priest. Could she kill these people with her intelligence? Moreover, they were her teammates. She did not have the heart to kill them. If she was a divine bird, she would definitely kill them. Hua Xinyang's admirer, Ma Zhengyang, noticed that something was wrong with Hua Xinyang. He walked over and asked softly, Xinyang, what's wrong? No, nothing. Take your teammates and leave this place immediately. Don't tell anyone that you know me. Leave quickly. Hua Xinyang said in a deep voice. Why? What the hell happened? Just tell me if there's anything. No one can hurt you. Ma Zhengyang said solemnly. You can't help me. Take them and leave immediately. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to leave when the Void Spirit sect comes. Hua Xinyang said softly. What? When did you offend the Void Spirit sect? Ma Zhengyang asked in shock. Ha ha ha. How would I know that person would kill Jian Lingshu? The Void Spirit Divine Sect's people will find this place very soon. They will know that I was the one who led that person here. Even if I did nothing wrong, according to the Divine Sect's way of doing things, they will probably capture me to vent their anger. You guys should leave. If you follow me, I will only implicate you. Hua Xinyang smiled bitterly. Ma Zhengyang's face was pale. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't dare to go against the Divinity sect. They were one of the 4 most powerful factions in the entire realm. On the surface, Ma Zhengyang said that he loved 4th Mother Hua, but at the crucial moment, he actually ran away. He didn't even say a word because he understood the Void Spirit Divine Sect's way of doing things. Looking at Ma Zhengyang's departing figure, Hua Xinyang laughed bitterly and thought to herself, am I smart? But I can't even see them clearly. Less than an hour later, night fell. Hua Xinyang was surrounded by bonfires. Her hands and feet were cold. Men, surround this place. Whoosh! At this moment, Ma Zhengyang was kneeling beside the leader. He said flatteringly, Superior Ling, it was her, Hua Xinyang, who told Yi Qinghan about the whereabouts of Master Jian Lingshu. These people were there. You can ask them if you don't believe me. Hua Xinyang's face turned ugly. She didn't expect the man who said he loved her yesterday to betray her for wealth. He even took the initiative to bring people to capture her. Ling Xian coldly stepped into the valley and kicked away a pile of firewood. He looked coldly at the crowd and asked hoarsely, was there a young man who asked you about Lord Sword Lingshu's whereabouts the other day? The others were shocked. This was someone from the Divine Sect. These days, no one should offend someone from the divine sect. Yes, yes. There was a young man. I think his name was Yi something. Hua Xinyang told him about Lord Sword Lingshu's whereabouts. I suspect that he was the one who killed Lord Sword Lingshu. Many people said at the same time. Although that young man's realm is a little weak, only a middle-level complete deity, he was able to kill 5 upper-level god priests in one move. I think he hit his cultivation level. Not only did he find out where Lord Jian Lingshu is, he also found out where Holy Qilin King and Qing Shenluo are. Ma Jingyang bowed again and said. Good, you have done well. The divine sect always rewards those who do well and punishes those who do wrong. Ling Xian smiled coldly. He grabbed Hua Xinyang and said coldly, Lord Sword Lingshu died because of you. You can wait for the divine sect elder's judgment. Sir, this has nothing to do with us. It was Hua Xinyang who told him. We wanted to kill that person together, but Hua Xinyang stopped us. If she didn't stop us, Lord Sword Lingshu might not have died. The remaining 20 or so people knelt down and begged for mercy. They were afraid that they would be implicated. Ma Jingyang wasn't the only one who betrayed Hua Xinyang's team. The others betrayed her as well. Hua Xinyang smiled. She didn't think that she would end up like this. However, she had seen the true colors of these people, even though it was useless now. You still have the cheek to smile. Slap. Ling Xian gave Hua Xinyang a hard slap, sending her flying to the ground. Hiss hiss hiss. Ling Xian went up and pulled. Hua Xinyang's divine clothes were torn apart, revealing her white skin and red undergarments. The group of adventurers from the Void Spirit Divine Sect laughed evilly. Martial Uncle Ling, why don't you vent your anger first? We'll continue after you're done. The Divine Sect disciple laughed evilly. You're still thinking about having fun at a time like this? Let's find Sword Lingshu's corpse first. Ling Xian said coldly. Hua Xinyang held onto a rock in humiliation, not daring to move. She could only argue, Sir, whether Lord Sword Lingshu was killed by Yi Qinghan has yet to be verified. If that person was only a good friend of Lord Sword Lingshu, wouldn't you be accusing me wrongly? That person is only in the complete middle realm. No matter how strong he is, it's impossible for him to kill the chief disciple of the divine sect. Moreover, he didn't just ask about Lord Sword Lingshu's location. He also asked about the whereabouts of Saint Qilin King and Qing Shenluo. Could it be that he wanted to kill the other two? Ling Xian didn't want to give others a reason to doubt him. At this time, he had to investigate the matter clearly. However, he couldn't let go of the wrong person. Therefore, Hua Xinyang had to be detained. Once it was confirmed that Lord Sword Lingshu was killed by Yi Qinghan, Hua Xinyang would have to be buried with him. Put on your clothes and come with us. Find that so-called Yi Qinghan and I'll consider you a meritorious deed. If it wasn't Yi Qinghan who killed Lord Sword Lingshu, I'll spare your life. If it was really Yi Qinghan who killed Lord Sword Lingshu, you'll be an accomplice. I'll make you regret being born into this world. Ling Xian said coldly. Chapter 746. Yi Qinghan didn't know that Hua Xinyang had been captured because of him. At this moment, he changed his direction and rushed towards the northwest in search of the Holy Qilin King. After wasting a day and a night, Ling Xian brought people to the Ghost Stone Forest. They found that the forest had been razed to the ground. The sword and saber qi had left deep cracks in the ground. It was a shocking sight. Half of Jian Lingshu's body was at the bottom of the cliff. His head had been chopped off. The hero of a generation had died tragically on the spot. There was no vitality left. Even his corpse wasn't eaten by ferocious beasts. It was obvious that Jian Lingshu's killer wasn't a ferocious beast, but a saber expert. Ma Jingyang told Ling Xian with certainty, esteemed lord, Yi Qinghan is indeed a saber expert. He killed 5 high gods with a single slash. The saber chi here is crisscrossing. Many of the cracks were created by the saber. Lord Jian Lingshu must have been killed by him. Ling Xian nodded. It was good that they knew who killed him. Their priority now was to find Yi Qinghan. Tie up that bitch Hua Xinyang. Don't let her escape. Ling Xian said angrily. Whoosh! 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 3 young disciples quickly tied Hua Xinyang up with God-binding chains. The chains weighed at least 1,000 pounds. It made it difficult for her to stand. She kept trembling and looked miserable. Take Jian Lingshu's corpse. Let's go. A group of people quickly made a stretcher and carried Jian Lingshu's corpse away. Let's go. Slap. A young man was following behind Hua Xinyang. If he was slightly slower, he would whip her with a willow branch. The more miserable Hua Xinyang screamed, the more excited he became. In the end, Hua Xinyang clenched her teeth and endured the pain. Blood and tears burst out from her eyes. Her flesh was almost lacerated and she was carried away on a wooden stick. I know you're quite famous in the Clear Moon realm. You're known as the Think Tank. Tell me how to find Yi Qinghan as soon as possible, and I'll let you suffer less. Otherwise, it won't be just physical pain. I'll let someone defile you and humiliate you to death. Ling Xian said coldly. Hua Xinyang's body trembled and her eyes were filled with fear. Now, there were more than 30 disciples of the divine sect. There were also the adventurers. If they allowed her to enter, she would die a horrible death. Since he can kill Sword Lingshu and wants to kill Holy Qilin King, it shouldn't be a problem for him to kill this group of people. I don't want to live, I just want to die a quick death. I don't want to be humiliated by this group of people. Hua Xinyang looked at the group of people who were staring at her. She gritted her teeth and said, Holy Qilin King is in the west. If we head northwest from here, we should be able to find Yi Qinghan. Hua Xinyang deduced Yi Qinghan's route, and it was exactly the same. Ling Xian and company quickly rushed towards the northwest and finally found traces of Yi Qinghan. Wherever Yi Qinghan passed by, there were corpses everywhere. Their flesh and blood had all been devoured. Ling Xian was somewhat alarmed. Are you sure this is the direction Yi Qinghan went and not the path of a mutated divine beast? Ling Xian asked coldly. He has a spiritual pet with him. Ma Xingyang saw him fight. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. Hua Xinyang gritted her teeth and said. Ma Xingyang nodded and said flatteringly, that's right. He does have a spiritual pet with him. Their cultivation is not bad. They should be between the High God Shrine and the Peak Middle God Shrine. Let's continue. Ling Xian gathered a large group of experts. As long as they were adventurers, they were all recruited. Those who were able to train in the central region would not be weak. This group of people did not want to offend the Void Spirit Divine Sect. Moreover, the Divine Sect had paid the supreme grade God crystals. Therefore, they did not object and followed the group. 3 days later, this group of people had gathered to more than 100 people. Hua Xinyang hesitated. If she brought them to Yi Qinghan now, not only would they not be able to save her, they would also implicate Yi Qinghan. She might even die a worse death. Therefore, she led the group in circles. Yi Qinghan did not know that such a large group of experts was gathering and pouncing towards him. He met the Holy Qilin King in a valley. A valiant youth, 2 meters tall, was barehanded. His pair of Qilin arms could break the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers. He did not need any other divine weapons. At this moment, he was looking at Yi Qinghan. He frowned and said, You are the one who killed Jian Lingshu? Yes, I am the one who killed him. Yi Qinghan looked at the person in front of him calmly. After confirming the person's identity, he said indifferently, The Holy Qilin King is indeed worthy of your reputation. Your pair of Qilin arms can kill tens of thousands of enemies. Your physical body is unparalleled. Your pair of iron hands can destroy an entire city. Ha ha ha, you're the first person who dares to be so calm in front of me. Kid, do you think you can challenge me just because you killed Jian Lingshu? The Holy Qilin King said as he stared coldly at Yi Qinghan. I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to kill you. I promised Jian Lingshu that you and King Shenluo would accompany him soon. However, before I kill you, you have to tell me where King Shenluo is. If you tell me, I'll allow you to be buried with my own hands. I won't allow wild beasts to devour your corpse, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. The Holy Qilin King raised his eyebrows and clenched his fists. He was so angry that he laughed. Kid, you don't know what's good for you. You want to kill all three of us. Even a half-step lord wouldn't dare say that. Unfortunately, I dare. Yi Qinghan stabbed his saber into the ground and stepped toward the Holy Qilin King with his bare fists. He shook his body and his bones cracked. He said in a low voice, I heard that your physical body is unparalleled. I don't believe it. If you can take a punch from me without retreating, I'll spare your life. Yi Qinghan crossed his arms and pressed his fingers together. He was extremely cold. The Holy Qilin King was furious. Yi Qinghan was looking down on him. Yi Qinghan wanted to fight barehanded even though he had a weapon. He was even more arrogant than King Shenluo. At the very least, King Shenluo would not stupidly engage in close combat with him. Then, go to hell. Boom! The Holy Qilin King crushed the valley with his foot. His body pierced through the void like a sharp sword. His Qilin arm kept growing. Flames erupted from the friction of his pot-sized fist. He appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. The rocks around him flew backward. Even the trees were torn apart by the force. It was clear how powerful he was. Yi Qinghan's dragon blood boiled. Dragon scales appeared on his azure dragon arm, emitting a golden glow. He withdrew his right leg and pulled his right fist back. The God-severing boxing glove appeared on his skin. The five-elemental metal element turned into the sharpest attack and attached itself to the God-severing boxing glove. Boom! Yi Qinghan twisted his waist. His fist turned inward and his arm straightened. He collided with his opponent's iron fist. Inch strike. Boom! Crack. Thud. 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 The Holy Qilin King didn't expect that his fist seemed to have smashed the universe wall. The flesh on his fist crumbled. His Qilin arm was broken. The flesh on his arm exploded. His battle bone turned into dust. His body was like a kite with a broken string. He took one step at a time and retreated dozens of steps. When he finally stabilized himself, he coughed out a mouthful of essence blood. His vigorous blood essence roared crazily and healed his wound quickly. Shwa! Yi Qinghan's figure was as fast as lightning. His knee landed on the Holy Qilin King's chest. The Holy Qilin King's back bulged as he flew backward uncontrollably. Before he could retaliate, Yi Qinghan punched again. Although his strength wasn't at its peak, this punch landed on the Holy Qilin King's face. His teeth were shattered. Bang! Yi Qinghan used the force to leap up. He used his elbow to press down on the Holy Qilin King's neck. Boom! The Holy Qilin King's head hit the ground hard. He didn't expect to be defeated by Yi Qinghan in 3 moves. He was dizzy and couldn't even stand up. Half kneeling on the ground, he looked up at the cold-looking Yi Qinghan. He realized that Yi Qinghan was about to kick his head. He immediately raised his hand to block. Bang! Whoosh! Whoosh! The Holy Qilin King realized that his body wasn't invincible. Yi Qinghan's strength wasn't any weaker than his. In fact, it was even stronger. One had the Qilin bloodline and the other had the giant dragon bloodline. In addition to the 5 elemental Tao body, the holy Qilin king's advantage was immediately suppressed. In the eyes of others, the holy Qilin king might be stronger than Sword Lingshu. However, in the eyes of Yi Qinghan, he was so weak that he couldn't even withstand a single blow. In just 5 minutes, the holy revelation logistics lost all resistance. I'll give you one more chance. Tell me where the pure God's village is. Yi Qinghan stepped on the holy Qilin king's chest and questioned him coldly. That's impossible. You're definitely not a perfected middle god. How can I lose to a human? And a middle god at that? The holy Qilin king roared and struggled frantically. Unfortunately, his chest didn't feel like it was being stepped on by a foot. It felt like it was being stepped on by 100,000 mountains. There's no such thing as an ant in this world. Even an ant can cultivate to your level if given enough time. It's a pity that you'll never understand how to unleash greater strength. I don't want to ask you a third time. Where is the pure God's village? Yi Qinghan's aura exploded as he pressed down on the holy Qilin king. I don't know. Get lost. If you dare to kill me, my race will annihilate your entire race, the holy Qilin king roared. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the holy Qilin king's heart and sent him flying with a kick. His iron fist turned into a blade as he broke the holy Qilin king's throat. He forced the holy Qilin king's godhead out and suppressed the soul within it. The holy Qilin king's godhead and head were taken away. Yi Qinghan kicked the holy Qilin king's body away and landed beside the Pishio. The Pishio had been hungry for a long time. It swallowed the holy Qilin king with the Qilin bloodline. As soon as it did so, it let out an angry roar that shook the mountains and rivers. The ferocious beasts in the central region all knelt down. The divine Qilin sect went crazy. It had only been a few days since Jian Lingshu's death, and the holy Qilin king had died. This was even after the divine Qilin sect had warned the holy Qilin king. Go and investigate. Find out who's trying to assassinate my son. Capture him alive and bring him to the holy mountain. I want to skin him alive. A middle-aged man's palm pierced through the void. His aura was extremely powerful. He was a half-step Lord God, and he was very young. He wasn't someone an old man like Li Sha could compare to. Out of the 3 great experts, 2 had died in the short span of 4 days. How long would it take for the last one to die? The divine nation started to get nervous. That was the crown prince. They couldn't afford to be careless. They immediately sent a message to Qin Shenluo, asking him to hide and try his best to avoid conflict with others. The divine nation also sent dozens of powerhouses to receive him and bring him out of the secret realm. Qin Shenluo was already deep in the secret realm. He received the message and didn't believe that the holy Qilin king and Jian Lingshu were killed by a medium god. He muttered to himself, could it be that old man Li Sha faking it to take revenge on the 3 great powers? Chapter 747. Ling Xian and the rest soon received the news that the holy Qilin king had died in battle. The Void Spirit Divine sect requested him to join the Divine Qilin sect and the kingdom to capture Yi Qinghan. The 3 organizations suspected that Li Sha had disguised himself as a young man to assassinate the 3 powerhouses. The kingdom founding ancestor, the Holy Qilin, and the Void Spirit Divine sect's Grand Elder had come personally to suppress the Great God sect. However, Li Sha was in the sect. He pretended to be curious as he looked at the half-step lords from the 3 organizations. He said in surprise, "What are you doing, fellow cultivators? Did the Great God sect offend you again? Where's that old man, Wenjing?" The holy Qilin was not in a good mood. He questioned coldly. "Why are you calling me? Holy Qilin, is your brain squashed by a door? Or did you eat gunpowder and explode?" Wenjing hovered in the air and appeared outside the Great God sect. He asked coldly. "Have you been in the sect all this time? Kingdom founding ancestor Qin Lai asked with a frown. Where else could we be if not in the sect? If you're unhappy with the great god sect, we'll fight. There's no need to find excuses every day. If we really fight today, the great god sect will cease to exist. Your sects and kingdoms will be gone too. Li Sha said coldly. It's a misunderstanding. Fellow cultivators, please don't be angry. The Void Spirit Divine Sect's Jian Lingshu and the Holy Qilin King of the Divine Qilin sect have both died a few days apart. According to our investigation, a young man entered the secret zone and asked about Qin Shenluo and the others' whereabouts. It's only been a few days, and 2 of them have died. Qin Lai said in a deep voice. What does this have to do with us? Li Sha asked unhappily. Because that young man is only on perfected middle rank. We're worried that a half-step lord has disguised himself as him. That's why we're here to ask. I believe both of you can understand, Qin Lai said with a sigh. Li Sha was genuinely shocked. He was not faking it because he did not expect Yi Qinghan to kill the Holy Qilin King so soon after killing Jian Lingshu. Unfortunately, Qin Lai and the rest misunderstood the real reason for Li Sha and Wenjing's surprise. The 3 of them retreated. Li Sha and Wenjing smiled and turned to leave. Soon, Yi Qinghan's image was sent out of the secret zone. The 3 half-step lords looked at Yi Qinghan's portrait and clenched their fists. They mobilized all the spies from the 3 organizations and began investigating Yi Qinghan's true background. Many spies appeared in the territory of the Great Path Divine Sect. They focused on the territory of the Great Path Divine Sect and soon found Qin Town. Then, they followed them to the Yuan City and even found the house where Qin Wentian and Qin Chust were staying. Boom! The sacred Kylin smashed the table with its fist and roared, it was indeed those 2 old men who did this. We don't have any evidence. The 2 of them can push all the blame away. Send someone to capture the 2 children. I'll have Yi Qinghan deliver them to you. Qin Lai controlled the kingdom of God. How could he succeed without intelligence? Instead of looking for Yi Qinghan in the arcane realm, he might as well let him appear and send himself to death. Yi Qinghan had no idea where Qin Shenluo was, so he could only wander around the border of the central region. However, the divine bird noticed that something was off behind them. It felt like someone was following them. Master, don't you think someone's following us? The divine bird asked curiously. Yi Qinghan frowned. He found it strange as well, so he began walking back. Ling Xian and the rest had gathered more than 130 powerhouses by then. They were confident that no matter how powerful Yi Qinghan was, it would be impossible for him to defeat so many people. Whether it was the sacred Kylin King, Jian Lingshu, or even Qin Shenluo, it would be impossible for them to kill more than 100 powerhouses by themselves. Therefore, they were still looking for Yi Qinghan. They traveled through the mountains continuously, but they did not notice a pair of eyes staring at them from the top of a tall mountain. Yi Qinghan looked from afar and saw the group of people. He also saw Hua Xinyang tied to a wooden stick. She looked miserable and her clothes were disheveled. If it were not for the god-binding chain, she would have been exposed. Isn't that the girl we asked for directions from? She was implicated by you? The divine bird asked curiously. Yi Qinghan looked at the 100+ experts and pondered. Seeing Hua Xinyang die because of him, his Tao heart would not be able to bear it. If he were to step in and save her, these 100+ high gods would definitely turn him into a pile of ashes. Soon, Yi Qinghan looked up at the divine bird and said coldly, think of a way to kill this group of people for me. Isn't that simple? When night falls, we will put some flesh and blood that is full of vitality at the place where they are stationed. Then, we will let the Pai Xiu lead the group of beasts and create a beast tide. We will be able to trample them to death. The divine bird said with disdain. That girl was implicated because of me. Isn't it a little inappropriate to kill them all? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. Isn't this silly dragon a spatial divine beast? Let's just take her out during the chaos. Once a beast tide happens, who will care about a girl? The divine bird laughed wickedly. It would be a spectacular scene to imagine more than 100 powerhouses being surrounded by countless beasts. Yi Qinghan ordered the god-slaying eagle to follow this group of people and left quietly with the Pai Xiu. The sky was not dark yet. Yi Qinghan and the Pai Xiu found a large number of mutated divine beasts. When the Pai Xiu roared, the divine beast's legs went soft. How would they dare to fight? The divine bird was known as the 10,000 Beasts Divine Emperor. It was proficient in many beast languages. Soon, they communicated with each other. These divine beasts knew that Yi Qinghan only wanted them to create a beast tide to attack some humans. They agreed readily. Hundreds of the strongest divine beasts in the central region were gathered. They betrayed each other and told Yi Qinghan all the powerful divine beasts they knew. Yi Qinghan found thousands of divine beasts in half a day. They were all 5th-grade beasts with strong vitality. The only one they were afraid of was the Pai Xiu. This Pai Xiu was the son of a real chaos dragon. Although it was very weak now, its aura was something that even divine beasts were afraid of. Under the lead of the Pai Xiu, more than 1,000 divine beasts followed Yi Qinghan to the location of the colorful snake. They tried to keep their voices as low as possible so as not to alarm anyone. Ling Xian and the others raised firewood and scattered the feces or dragon bones of the powerful divine beasts around them. This deterred the divine beasts from approaching. After several days of not finding Yi Qinghan, Ling Xian became impatient. He vented his anger on Huaxinyang. The tip of his tongue touched the corner of his mouth. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Take off the iron chain on her." Huaxinyang was in despair. If she could kill herself, she would not hesitate. Unfortunately, she could not even do it under Ling Xian's eyes. "Ha ha ha, Master Ling, shall we find a good place for you to enjoy?" Some young disciples smiled and said flatteringly. Go ahead." Ling Xian said indifferently. Boom, 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 suddenly, the heaven and earth rumbled. The sky was occupied by powerful birds. Pairs of dark green eyes could steal one's soul. "Uncle Master." The young disciple turned his head, and his face turned purple. His legs were trembling. He had never seen so many terrifying beasts blocking the valley. The sky was also occupied by flying beasts. This was truly a situation where there was no way to go up and no way to go down. Just when everyone was panicking, Yi Qinghan suddenly appeared. He grabbed Huaxinyang's waist and left before anyone noticed. "You guys should enjoy the pleasure of being killed. If you want to rape a woman, I don't think you have the chance anymore." Yi Qinghan left the valley with the panicking Huaxinyang in his arms. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.